I'm Jack Nichols and welcome to home.
A thriller at Imola, the opener to the brand new 2021 season of the Formula SimRacing World Championship. Just 2 weeks ago saw Michi Hoyer win the opening race of the season for the second consecutive time. With a pole position as well, his first since all the way back in Malaysia 2017, it was a dominant display from the German. Fast forward that 2 week period and we head to a circuit in which we saw an all Burst eSports front row in 2020 and a Burst eSports victory in the race in the hands of Ewan Simoncic. Just 30 kilometres from the centre of Lisbon near the coast of Portugal, we have this 4.2 kilometre circuit built back in the 70s. It was opened in 1972. Whilst opened for a fair while, it's been used very little in the modern era of motorsport. It does see occasional usage in the likes of touring cars and motorbikes. F1 last visited here in 1993. For us though, we take to it once again for another thrilling instalment of our season. It's time for the Portuguese Grand Prix in the official rFactor 2 Open Wheel Series Round 2 of the Formula SimRacing World Championship, brought to you by Masita Esports, 3D Wrap and SimLab. I'm Lewis McGlade, and alongside me, as it was 2 weeks ago, Mr. Ewan O'Leary. Hello.
Hello Lewis, hello to everybody at home as well. Yeah, looking forward to this one once again. It should be another fantastic FSR World Championship race, as if you'd expect anything else really. You say that we've not really used this circuit very much at all in real life, and we haven't used it much in sim either. We've only ever been here once before in the FSR World Championship. That was last season, and it was who else but Ewan Simoncic who ran out victorious in that particular race. He has got the opportunity to go 2 for 2 at this circuit here tonight, and he's got the opportunity to take his second podium of the season as well. It came in third 2 weeks ago at Imola behind Liam Duval, who was my driver of the day, putting a fantastic performance for me, and Michi Hoyer, who ended up taking his second ever FSR World Championship victory. So lots to talk about here tonight for the Portuguese Grand Prix, lots to get into. You're going to get into qualifying in a few moments' time, but yeah, looking forward to this race once again, as there you can see the standings after only one round.
And of course, Michi Hoyer then with that victory in the championship lead. Liam Duval and Ewan Simoncic on the podium for the 5th time in an opening round in 6 seasons. Only one of those he's missed. Alex Siebel and Dennis Jordan were up there at the top 5 for Evolution. Alex Siebel was actually applying pressure to Ewan Simoncic as well. Janis Brakshok, Mohamed Patel, Jim Parisis, Daniel Kish and Petr Boliak were the only point scorers in there. Of course, the top 10 scoring points. Boliak last season, he was the runner-up in the FSR World Championship. When we came to this venue in the 2020 season, retired from the race, was one of 2 retirements for the Croatian across the season. Michi Hoyer on the front row of the grid at a decent qualifying, but ended up with a penalty towards the latter point of the race and finished that race in 12th place. We fast forward though to the current week. We've got a few drivers with penalties. We're about to head into qualifying where we'll cover what's going on with those penalties. Of course, you can see there the 12-round season. We're in round 2. It is a long haul across the season, but it's not like the longest season in the world. You need to make sure that every round counts. You can't afford a retirement.
No, you definitely can't in this season, really. You know, it's shorter than we've seen in the past, certainly, but not quite as short as last season. This was only 10 rounds, but yeah, 12 this season. And I think it's quite a nice length of championship, really, especially we finished before September, so it's not exactly like it goes on forever as well, like sometimes championships can. But yeah, massively looking forward to being here for the 12-race World Championship season and seeing who's going to come out on top in it, really. We're no closer to finding out who's going to be champion by the end of it after only one round, as you might expect. But maybe today we can get a little bit closer. Here we are in qualifying at the moment. And interestingly, we didn't see very much of this last time out at the Imola circuit, but we've got 2 drivers already, Dennis Jordan and Ibrahim Khan, and Bernie Slappin's a 3rd driver now, out there on the hard tyres in qualifying. Just to explain, the fastest lap in qualifying is used as kind of a tyre compound. So if your fastest lap time in qualifying was on the hards, then that is one of your 2 that you have to use throughout the evening. You have to use 2 across either qualifying or the race. I don't know if I explained that very well, but you know what I mean. You'll see what we mean as we go along in the race. Interesting to see, though, that some people are starting to roll the dice here tonight, though.
We didn't see anyone really play anything crazy strategy-wise at Imola, and well, I assume we might see a couple play it today. We'll cover that as qualifying progresses. There are 4 drivers with penalties. We'll just cover those off at the start of this session and how the qualifying format works for those of you that are new to the FSR World Championship. The 3 with 4-place grid drop penalties is Davin Rocek, Ernest Lappins and Ibrahim Khan. Luca D'Amelio picked up a 6th-place penalty, so they've got those to serve this round out. So will be dropped back on the grid. Qualifying here that is happening ahead of us as we see Ernest Lappins on the circuit with that 4-place grid drop. He has taken a punt on the hard tyres. We'll get on that in a moment. They have effectively 3 laps across the session that they are able to do. Basically, you do your out lap, you do your time lap, you do your in lap, and then you can do that 3 times, basically short runs. And what that does is it provides you with this kind of thrilling session where it's all about nailing it to absolute perfection on your lap time as we ride on board with Janis Brakshock to set the first time of that session, a 109.235, already beaten in the first sector by the driver that had pole position at Imola and the front row of the grid here last season. That, though, was not a good line through the interior parabolica, losing an awful lot of time on the rear end.
Yeah, just a little, and it's quite slidey on the way out of the next corner as well. As we go up the hill through turn 8, we're not using the really clunky and clumsy 2 hairpins here, flying straight through with that right-hander, and then this final corner, which I think is absolutely fantastic, almost switching 180 degrees on yourself in this long open hairpin, as now Michi Hoy is going to go over the line, and it's going to be, it looks straight to the front. The first 1 minute 8 of the session, and he's in front of Brakshock and Adam Maguire, who just jumps up into 2nd place as well as Alex Siebel comes towards the line.
Yeah, decent time there from Hoyer. Let's see what Siebel does as he's crossing it. Goes up onto the front row of the grid. A couple of tenths down on the German of Michi Hoyer. Was wondering if this was going to be a bit of a reset button for Hoyer when it came to the start of the season. When he took that victory, it was a lights to flag victory and utter dominance in the Italian sunshine. And we kind of wonder if, when we look at Malaysia last season, he took that victory at the opening race of the season. It invigorated this new Michi Hoyer, and then with a pole position and a race win. Well, we'll have to see how that one works. But Beliak out of the final corner with his teammate as well, Mohammed Patel, on a lap time just behind him. Let's see what Beliak does across the line. Goes to 8th position, only half a second off of Hoyer.
Yeah, absolutely. As Mohammed Patel, the 2017 world champion, is coming up towards the line right now. No purple sectors from him so far, but still could be a decent time from him. Over the line, 8th place, exactly half a second away, as Jim Parisius also comes over the line on the hard tyres. He's down in 15th place. It seems that those who had opted for the hard tyres in this one are quite a long way down in all of this. Dennis Jordan, I think, is the furthest up of them. He's all the way down in 15th place, but out on the hard tyres once again. He seems to be very set on going for this strategy, as is Luca D'Amelio, which I think is a good call from Luca because he's getting a 6th place grid drop anyway, so he might as well use one of his hard tyre stints right now.
We know Dennis Jordan likes to play a little bit on strategy, and he'll try and throw something at this Grand Prix to see what he can get. Luca D'Amelio goes to 18th position. We'll more focus on his relative position in comparison to the other hard tyre runners. Dennis Jordan, who's half a second off of the next soft tyre runner, they're heading the hard tyre runners a good 3/10 clear of Jim Parisius, Ibrahim Khan and Luca D'Amelio as we ride on board with Danny van der Neet, who's going to cross the line and sets a time good enough for 15th, just behind Carlos Martin on the road. Janis Brakshock, who we're on board with now, has had a few pole positions in the World Championship. Comes across the line. He was 5th, is now 2nd. Just want to throw a little bit of a point out about Michi Hoyer when it comes to pole positions. He's had 3 pole positions in the World Championship. 1 back in Imola, of course, just a couple of weeks ago. The last 2, though, were at the French Grand Prix and the Malaysian Grand Prix in 2017. The reason I bring that up as it being fairly important is that those Grand Prix were back-to-back. So the only time he's had 2 pole positions were back-to-back as well. That's a bit of a spin from Maguire.
Yeah, Adam Maguire going around at turn 8 there, which is very easy to do. Just ever so slightly going over the limit there on the left-hand side as we go on board now with Jurnej Simencic currently in 6th place, 3 tenths away from his teammate Michi Hoyer, who has put in a storming first lap there, I think it's fair to say. I'm just under 4 minutes to go now. He might hold on here, but he's still got to improve again. He actually is going purple in the first sector as his teammate going a little bit wide through turn 9. This is not the best lap from Jurnej Simencic. He chucks the car off, kills the cameraman, and so he's off into the forest, and he'll be getting himself ready for a final lap time a little bit later on. But Michi Hoyer absolutely flying again. Look at this. Purple sector 1, purple sector 2, could well be purple sector 3 as well. Setting the world on fire right now, Michi Hoyer.
Yeah, it's not really too much of a surprise in a sense when you consider his lap time that put him up on the 8.9 that he was on. Certainly didn't look like a perfect lap. There was more in it, and we saw that in that central part of the circuit. Michi Hoyer with an 8.8 stays at the front of the field, pulling out even more of a distance to Tibor Marocek as well. That is a very, very impressive time from the German of Michi Hoyer. Consider where his teammates are. Marocek is the next highest burst car. Jurnej Simencic, pole position here 12 months ago. Only good enough at the moment for P6. We ride on board with Patel, who set a decent first sector and a decent second sector, although runs it wide before coming into the final corner of the circuit. And because of that, he's offline. And there we go, losing grip. Had to put way too much steering in a corner where you're really pushing the limit on throttle and spinning away, and down he goes.
Yeah, absolutely. Very easy to get it wrong. Let's not forget through there as Jim Paresis comes over the line on hard tyres again. Not really getting up the order too much though. I believe Dennis Jordan is still the winning per se of those who are on the hard tyres. 17th place for him at the moment. We'll see if he continues on with that strategy or not, as we're on board with Geoffrey Fournier, the Frenchman, who's going through the turn number 8 at the moment. Turning it in quite nice and smooth at the moment, really. He misses the apex at turn 9. Not the first man we've seen to do that, though. A lot of people seemingly just missing the apex there at turn 9, and I can't really explain why, really. Seems like a fairly easy corner to me, but maybe it's very difficult to get the car turned in at that particular point. Either way, Fournier goes into 18th.
Pro expert, are you, Ewan? Are you gonna jump in the car at the World Championship next time?
I'd be doing 1 minute 20s right now.
Cameraman Cam Rodger had a good go at the World Championship. In fact, finished in the top 10 in Pro earlier today as well. Congratulations to him. Here's Daniel Kish, who we're on board with now, a driver who had a top 10 last time out at Imola. According to my stats, he's got a 1-place grid penalty. Not 100% sure what that's for, but he'll be dropping back a position anyway. At the moment, his qualification situation leaves him dropping a position back from last to absolute last. So definitely needs to improve here for Sancho Simsport. Departs the final corner into the line to actually set a time in this session. 56 seconds left on the clock. So this is going to be the only time he's going to do in this session. And once he does so, goes all the way up into 6th from 24th position. That will be regarded as not bad.
Yeah, that's fantastic from him, actually. His practice up goes over the line, and that's the end of his session because he's done his 3 laps. Here's Jurnej Simencic rounding off his session as well right now. Not a lot more he can do in all of this after this lap time over the line. He's under half a second behind his teammate, but that's a big margin compared to what we've seen in the past. Over the line goes our reigning champion. 6th place at best for Jurnej Simencic.
We do not see that often. What is going on with Jurnej Simencic here? David Marocek gets himself onto the front row of the grid, so it is still going to be a Burst eSports 1-2 on the grid unless Adam Maguire can do something about it. Another snap of oversteer through the penultimate corner and then over that bump at the final one, just pushing it that little bit too hard, and Maguire is gone.
Yeah, disappointing ever so slightly for him, although it's not a bad position right now. It could get worse later on, of course, let's not forget, but yeah, not bad for the moment. Michi Hoyer is really looking very safe at the moment, going purple in the second sector, but we're on board with Phil Krause right now. He's outside of the top 10, just behind Mohamed Patel here, about 7 thousandths behind, currently in 12th position, but could get himself a top 10 right here if he puts in a good lap time for the American. Over the line he goes, and it is 6th place. Good lap time from him as Michi Hoyer comes into the pit lane for likely his 4th ever World Championship pole, unless Liam Duval can do anything about it.
Yeah, back-to-back pole positions once again for Michi Hoyer. Leon Duval across the line. Where's he going to go all the way up into 5 with a purple final sector as well to boot? Nice lap times. Kish did a good job to get himself into 6th place, but everyone else has said no thank you very much to that one, dropping him right down the order. Jeffrey Fournier, who we thought was going to try and qualify on the hard tyres back at Imola, decided not to, and then ended the session here down in 18th position and last of the soft runners. There's Michi Hoyer, pole man extraordinaire, has a 100% record in the 2021 World Championship of pole positions, taking 1 here and 1 at Imola. That is a fantastic session. Another Burst eSports 1-2. What more can you say about him? Good stuff.
Yeah, fantastic stuff from Michi Hoyer and the whole Burst eSports squad, really. I mean, Hoyer has just, not only has he taken 2 pole positions in a row, he's comparatively demolished the field in this one, because 2 temps in a field like this is absolutely massive by any standards, really. He's the only man to get into the 1-minute 8s. Everybody else in the low 9s. It's just a phenomenal lap time from Michi Hoyer. He is in the form of his life right now, and he might not get a better opportunity this season to win another race. And if he were to start off with 2 race wins, then it's hard to see anybody knocking his confidence from then on in. And with his rivals like, Simoncic is well down the order, Mohamed Patel's outside the top 10, Petr Berliak's down in 14th, people like that out of position. He's got a great chance once again right now.
And one thing he always does for the FSR World Championship is gives us a little look around the circuit. So back-to-back pole positions. Let's take a look at how he'd get it done.
This is Formula Sim Racing. My name is Michi Hoyer. Welcome, guys, to the track presentation for round 2 of the 2021 Formula Sim Racing season. We are at Portugal. We are going around the final turn to start our track presentation lap for round 2 on the bumpy circuit here at Portugal, and we're going across the line into the best overtaking spot on the track. Turn 1, heavy braking zone. Be aware though, bumps in the braking zone make lock up your fronts very easily. Heavy on the traction we go into turn 2. Make sure to not take the curbs too hard, as there are more bumps that can set you off. Same goes for 3 and 4. 2 hairpins going up the hill. Traction is ever so important, but you see the bumps are unsettling the car pretty much, so you need to be alert at all times on this racetrack. Exiting out of turn 4, through 5, going towards 6. A second good overtaking opportunity if you're close enough, but be aware, once you go into the left-hander up the hill, traction is again a bit tricky. Into turn 7, a very late apex right-hander. This is right here where you want to be on the inside of the curb. There's also a little hole that can really screw up your rear, so drivers need to be aware. Turn 8, pretty quick. Turn 9, need to get a good exit into the final parabolica turn, where it is ever so important that you carry maximum speed onto the long straight, trying to prepare for your move or for your defense into turn 1. Guys, that is 1 lap here around the Portugal circuit, and we're now up for interesting racing to see the drivers battle it out.
Seeming to be the perfect driver to take us with a look around the circuit. Michi Hoyer, back-to-back pole positions in the FSR World Championship for the 2nd time in his World Championship career. Round 2, the Portuguese Grand Prix, coming up, 74 laps around this circuit. Yet another thrilling qualifying session. Got to give a big shout out to Mesita Esports, 3D Rap Sim Lab, and of course the race here in the FSR World Championship. Ewan, wow, what more stuff from what can Michi Hoyer deliver next?
Well, another race win, I think. Without saying, I know it's kind of obvious to pick the man who's gone on pole to win the race. He's got a long way to go, but yeah, he's certainly looking pretty unstoppable right now. Meanwhile, while we've been in the little ad break there, we've been kind of looking over the different strategies, looking over all of the different grid positions, grid penalties as well. The man I was most impressed with there in qualifying was David Mochak, I have to say, getting 2nd place in that particular qualifying session. Didn't get a top 10 last time out in Imola, but put in a good few decent performances back in 2020. And I think that's a great qualifying for him to get P2. However, he's got a 4th-place grid drop, so he's going to be starting off in 6th place. So it's going to be Hoyer versus Siebel on the front row, Braxock and Duval close in behind. But yeah, Lewis, we've got a lot of strategic things to talk about in the next few moments as we look over the qualifying results.
Indeed, and obviously we need to cover who's done what qualifying when it comes to the hard tyres, and we'll discuss how that one works, because Dennis Jordan will be the highest runner as we see the grid ahead of us. Look at all those HMEs in the middle of the pack. We'll cover that when we get to the starting grid. Dennis Jordan, who qualified in 19th position, the highest of those that start on the hard compound tyre. Ibrahim Khan behind, Jim Paresis, Luca D'Amelio and Blake Checketts all will be starting this race on the hard compound tyre. And the reason why that is important is because when it comes to the strategy in the FSR World Championship, between qualifying and the race, you must use the hard tyres twice. You can take an option to use it once in qualifying, and then you do your fastest time in qualifying on the hard tyre, and then use it once in the race, or you can use it twice in the race. Now, this is going to spice things up. It's sort of what we were running in the Indy Pro Championship at the end of last year. It throws out some interesting strategy calls around a circuit like this here, Ewan, where we see a large delta between the softs and the hards. I too would want to be on the hards as little as possible in the race.
Yeah, so people like Dennis Jordan and Ibrahim Khan have kind of suffered in terms of track position for this one, because let's not forget, even though those guys qualified on the hard tyres, they can pick whatever tyre they want to start this race, and that is the case for anybody up and down the field. Going to be 3 soft tyre stints for them. As you mentioned, we're talking to Cam in the break. The delta between the soft tyres and the hard tyres around here is one of the biggest to any circuit that we go to in 2021. So it could be a massive advantage for the guys like Dennis Jordan and Ibrahim Khan, who we're expecting to see in the thick of the action throughout this race.
Indeed, we're looking, because of the smaller fuel tank, refueling in the World Championship means that the smaller fuel tank, we're expecting quick stints. So we're expecting 3-stop races. You can potentially save a little bit here and there to extend a couple of laps and try and get yourself a bit further up the order on strategy. And then it's going to be coming down to your tyres and pushing them to the very, very limit. Well, we've got 74 laps ahead of us, and we shall see what our starting order looks like. We know Michi Hoyer is on the pole position with Alex Siebel as well on that front row. Here's your starting grid. Hoyer once again on pole position. Rodger got dropped from the front row. Siebel, Janis Braxock and Liam Duval alongside on row number 2. Adam Maguire hasn't had a pole position in the FSR World Championship since all the way back in 2017. He's going to start from 5th place here. David Marocek from the front row of the grid drops to 6th place. Phil Kraus and double world champion Jerne Simoncic is going to roll off from 8th. Daniel Kish from 9th position with Robin Panzer up inside the top 10. Decent qualifying for him. Mohamed Patel and Luke Maguire on row number 6. 13th position goes the way of Ricardo Costa for Epic Racing. Decent stuff from him. Berliak had points last time out, and I mean a point. Starts from 14th. Tom Satherley and Carlos Martin 15th and 16th. 17th position for Danny Van Der Neet. And our final soft tyre qualifier, Jeffrey Fournier, rolls off of 18th position. Dennis Jordan and Jim Paresis will be rolling around on the hard tyres at the start of this race from the 10th row of the grid. Blake Checketts and Ibrahim Khan, after a couple of penalties, will be starting on the penultimate row of the grid. That final one with Ernest Lappins and Luca D'Amelio. All of these drivers taking a risk on those hard compound tyres.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be very, very interesting to see what those guys do and what these guys have decided to choose for their opening stint. Take a look at this then. Liam Duval, interestingly, is one of the lone hard tyre runners up towards the front. Daniel Kish has done the same, but if you're outside the top 10, you're on the hards as a general rule around here at the moment. So we'll see how this plays out and people like it. So the bottom 6 at the moment, Jordan, Paresis, Checkits, Khan, Lapins and D'Amelio, at the end of this stint, they have used their hard tyre allocation for the whole event. They will be able to go onto the soft tyres right up until the end of this race, so they're going to be blindingly quick. The question remains, can they make their way through the traffic quick enough? If they can't, if track position is too important, then maybe that strategy will, in hindsight, will know it was the wrong call. But if you can overtake quite nicely around it, if you can get through fairly efficiently, get through these 24 cars, then maybe it's a race-winning strategy. It could even be that dramatic.
There was quite a long hold in the pro race, I think as well in Academy on the grid. We'll see if we get that in the World Championship as well. Engines will not like that one. Round 2 of the Formula Sim Racing World Championship about to start, though. The Portuguese Grand Prix, brought to you by Masita eSports, 3D Wrap, SimLab and The Race. Lewis McGlade with Ewan O'Leary alongside you to take you through the 74-lap thriller. Round number 2 in the World Championship. Michi Hoyer on the pole position once again for the 4th time in his career. He's got Alex Siebel alongside, and we're underway in Portugal. It's a good start from Hoyer, from Siebel, and Adam Maguire's jumped up in the 4th position as we fan our way through. Oh, there's massive contact in the background. There's huge stuff. That's all of the HMEs gone. One of them is upside down as well in the gravel trap. That is Phil Krause, Daniel Kish involved in all of this. There's chaos and calamity in the background. Someone has gone absolutely flying. See ya out of here. This is a terrible start for the World Championship, and Hoyer doesn't give a damn. He is gone.
Wow, I've never seen such a dramatic start in the FSR World Championship in my life. That is absolutely unbelievable. Blake Checkits is already out of this race. So all the tyre strategy for him can go out the window because he's not even on the road anymore. But yeah, it's a great qualifier for HME, but unfortunately it has all unravelled in the very first corners of this race. Let's try and dissect for you actually what happened here. On board with Janus Braxshot at the moment, he's in 10th place as we stand right now. But how did he get there? He got hit from the rear. I think that was self-inflicted. That might have been a bit of a teammate-on-teammate action. Was that Liam Duval maybe who got into the back of the Hungarian? Let's find out. Or was it maybe the car in front, Phil Krause, maybe that is. I don't quite know.
I mean, so there's a few incidents in here, yeah, you've got Phil Krause making contact with Braxshot. You've got Duval being smashed from behind. This is on board with Phil Krause. I'm not going to lie, and I'll be pretty harsh here. That is pretty unacceptable in the World Championship, and I know that the disciplinary committee will be taking quite a dim view on all of this action. Big for Phil Krause. What happened to Blake Checkits going through T3? Because he was the one flipping out of the circuit. Here is Ernest Lapins, who we're on board with now in the mid-pack after starting last, having a grid drop as well to boot, dodging through all of this debris, getting smashed and then dodging around the HME that was stricken on the apex of T1. This is on board with Ernest Lapins. There goes Blake Checkits. There's Danny Kish gone. We're behind, that's Robin Panzar, who we've just picked through, Luke D'Amelio. This genuinely is one of the worst starts that I've ever seen. Yeah,
to a race full stop, never mind an FSR World Championship. So yeah, Blake Checkits, wow, that's an accident and a half, isn't it? He's actually outside of the circuit there, which is why he's DNF there, Blake Checkits, but unfortunately that's his second DNF this season. So back into the race then, top 4 on the soft tyres. Hoyer, Siebel, Simoncic, who's picked his way through that traffic remarkably well. He's brought Robin Panzar along for the ride as well inside the top 4. Petr Perliak from 14th on the grid is to 9th place already. That's a fantastic start from the 2015 World Champ, and he's got Luke Maguire, Carlos Martin, Danny van der Neet and Jim Paresis behind him on the hard. So a lot of guys on the hard tyres in this one. Janus Braxshot is just trying to get his way through all this mess.
Yeah, Dennis Jordan, by the way, he's gone up into 12th position. He's behind Tom Savley, who seems to be struggling with grip in the hard compound tyre. We saw him struggle a little bit when it came to tyres at the previous round at Imola, as we look back in the pack towards Ernest Lapins, who's on the back of Luca D'Amelio, starting from last place on the grid, up into 15th position for Go Speed, a team that he was sort of a part of last season when he was driving for Singularity Go Speed. There was a bit of a split in that outfit towards the end of the season, but rejoining the full-time Ghost Speed outfit. 2.5 seconds then leading the way is Michi Hoyer, and very comfortably so indeed. But with 2 hard tyres to come for him, he knows he needs to be checking out into the distance and pushing as hard as he can. This is very reminiscent of his Imola drive, though, don't you think? He ran away into the distance in the early stages of the opening Grand Prix, and he seems to be doing the same thing here.
I don't want to say he was never seen again, because it was fairly close for a fair amount of the race, but yeah, it was certainly in Michi Hoyer's control for the entirety of the Italian Grand Prix. But he's got about 2.5 seconds at the moment. As further back, things are going on in the battles here, as there's a bit of a fight going on now between D'Amelio, Lapins and Adam Maguire, who are all in the fight, and these guys were all halted earlier on by that accident, and so they're not likely to be the most patient at this stage.
Yeah, that was a bit of a mistake from Luca D'Amelio, who just ran it a little bit too hard through the kink at T2 and just threw it out to the outside of the circuit. Ernest Lapins didn't need a second invitation, and now he's being chased by Adam Maguire, who started from 6th place from memory. He's in Liam Duval's car, but we'll ignore that one. Started a little bit further up the grid, did Adam Maguire. Spoke about how he'd had some previous decent experience in the FSR World Championship, having qualified quite well a few years ago, and bit of a snap there. He's pushing hard. He's in the soft tyres very far down in the pack. He needs to be making better progress. This is a driver who is getting the hard tyres out of the way straight away so we can get onto the softs and hopefully do something in the race. And considering everything that's happened so far, Ewan, for Dennis, this is looking so good.
Yeah, it's looking really, really good at the moment, because if you look at his nearest rivals who are on the same strategy, Ernest Lapins and Luca D'Amelio, they are a good few seconds behind him. So in terms of the rivals that he's got on that strategy, he hasn't got too many. He's going to be pitting quite fairly short as well, so this isn't going to be a full stint for Dennis Jordan, because you don't really need to. With these fuel tanks, you do have one kind of short stint in there, and it often is your hard, or one of your hard tyre stints. Obviously, if there's only one hard tyre stint, then you're going to make your short pit that one. So he's going to make, or try to have as long as possible on these soft compounded tyres, as we now go up to the hard tyre battle that is headed by Danny van der Neet. We've got Jim Parisis, Janis Braxock, Tom Saverly and Dennis Jordan all involved. So a bit of a train going on at the moment. This is the classic FSR situation that we see in the opening 10 laps or 20 laps of the race. They kind of settle into the positions that they really have got off the line, really, and don't try and chance their arm to try and get any more just for the opening part of the race. But with these different strategies, it's kind of forcing people to attack for longer during the race, which I think is a good thing.
Yeah, Braxock will need to make his way up the field behind Jim Parisis, because he's on those soft tyres. He's also got old teammate Tom Saverly directly behind him. Of course, he was part of Go Speed last season, departed them at Interlagos when we exited the season at the Brazilian Grand Prix, and Tom Saverly said a very heartfelt goodbye to Braxock, and away he goes. Speaking of away he goes, look at Ricardo Costa absolutely lighting it up there, and once again drift machine galore on home soil. That's not how you drive a Formula car, mate.
No, not well. It's you can drive it like that. It's just not very quick, really. Which is the Tuscaloosa. It does look very, very loose on the rear end, though. Really fighting that car. Maybe he likes to drive it. You know, people do tend to like oversteery setups, etc. But Dennis Jordan now has been overtaken finally. Darek Mosek has got through, but that did take him a fair amount of effort. Let's see how he did it. Got a good run out of turn 6, that is, and now down into turn 7 on the brakes. Dennis Jordan gave him the room and facilitated that move quite well. He didn't want to try and turn across Mosek there and chance the car actually getting retired here in a bit of an accident. So he did just decide to kind of let Mosek go through with minimal arguing, minimal battling between those two.
Smart. I mean, this is kind of the driver we would expect from Dennis Jordan. He's patient, thinks about the long game here, and we know that kind of stuff. Well, that's his trademark. You're right that he'll be running a fairly short stint as David Marocek runs wide into Curva VIP to then pull it back, running up towards the fast kink and then down the hill towards the interior parabolica, where he'll eye up an opportunity to pass Tom Saverly, but no way through as of yet on the Kiwi. Dennis Jordan, like I say, he plays a long game. You're right in the sense that he'll be running a shorter stint on his hard tyres, because effectively the way the fuel tank is designed in the FSR World Championship is it's effectively there to try and make sure that the fuel tank can go roughly 30% of the race distance. Now, obviously, 330s equal 90. You take that away from 100. That means that realistically, the shortest stint that you're going to do is going to be 10% of the race distance. We've passed 10% now. And when does he come in? Because I would expect him to be in sort of in the next 5-10 laps maybe, and come in from an earlier stop.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, last time out, I don't think that it was quite able to go 30%. It was a little bit less than that. So maybe he does have to go 1 or 2 laps longer just to make sure that he's going to make his, the worst thing out of everything would be to, instead of coming in 1 lap early, 1 lap late or whatever, the worst thing of all would be to run out of fuel at the end of the race. So, or make an extra stop for 1 lap of fuel because you've miscalculated something. But obviously the calculations will have already been done. And there isn't much to do right now for Michi Hoyer other than just drive very quickly, and he's doing that quite well. 3.8 seconds, 3.9 to Alex Siebel. It's extending all of the time as the German is sort of holding Joni Simoncic at bay, although these two really haven't quite engaged in a fight just for the moment. Let's not forget that Siebel was chasing Simoncic late on in the race 2 weeks ago, but on this occasion he is in front and defending from the front in second place.
Let's not forget as well that Simoncic and Siebel as well will be working fairly close together. Phil Kraus pulls into his garage and is out of the race. Danny Kish as well out of the race, down in 22nd position and joining Blake Checketts in the retirement list. So Ware qualified inside the top 10 and had points last time out for Danny Kish. Not the case today. And that one not going to plan for Zancho Simsport, 20th and 22nd. Of course, for that retirement of Kish and Ibrahim Khan way down the order. Mohamed Patel in 21st place, obviously involved in that opening lap incident, is way off the back of the field and just trying to basically come round and salvage some sort of result from this.
His teammate Petr Berliak has done a fantastic job of picking his way through there, so it seems that it's a real mix of bad luck and good luck for some people. Some have managed to fly their way through that opening corner with no real problems at all, but others have really got caught up badly, and I've no idea how so many accidents happened in such a short amount of time. Really, it seems like a season's worth of turn 1 incidents happened all at one corner, I'm afraid, but there you go. That's all in the past for these guys now, and looking forward to the future, really. David Mocek on the back of Tom Savalli, but difficult to get a run off this final corner, really, with the amount of dirty air, and difficult to follow the car through there, although it's not awful, the dirty air, but it's still bad enough that Mocek is not able to have the opportunity down there into turn 1, so he sticks behind for now. This is all stemming from Danny van der Neep, by the way, who's in 8th place, and he's holding up Jim Parisius, and then following on from that, it's all stacking up, but Mocek at this stage in the race is wanting to get through as quickly as possible. He does look fairly quick.
He does indeed. Of course, he kind of should be at this point. He's been dropped back into the pack and is now around a lot of the hard tyre runners. I think the luckiest man at turn 1, by the way, or the luckiest two, being Siebel and Simoncic, because when Kraus and that were sent across the inside of the circuit with Brackstock as well, they were headed to one place, and that was straight into the side of Simoncic. And how they did not make contact, I don't know. It was just a chaotic, calamitous affair. Robin Panzar as well. I did say that he was dropping back in the order. I actually meant David Marocek was the one dropping back. Robin Panzar, I would say driver of the season at the moment. Obviously, we're only 2 rounds in. He has not had a good couple of seasons in the World Championship. In 2019, I was saying that the Swede was looking so very impressive towards the end of the championship, remembering his drives at the American Grand Prix later in the season. He's done really well here to sort of balance the car a little bit. It's almost back to that 2019 form for Panzar.
Yeah, absolutely. He's still not been able to get that elusive race win yet in the World Championship, I don't believe, but he has had some great performances. 4 podiums so far and 4th place in 2019 Championship, which is a very good performance from him. But starting to find his feet again. Didn't have a great 2020, but 2021 seems to be going a little bit better for him. I look forward to seeing how he gets on. It was only 17th place last time out in Imola, but 4th place for him right now. And Burst Esports, just, you could call it lucky, but those drivers individually have had to pick their way through the turn 1 carnage, and they've got themselves into first, 3rd, and 4th out of their 4 cars. Mocek was the only one to really get caught up out of those 4, and so a great job from Hoyer, Simoncic and Panzar to be able to do that, and Burst Esports having a good day so far.
And of course, like I say, they do work closely with the likes of Alex Siebel. Probably not as close as they do elsewhere in other championships like GT Pro Tomorrow, but they do work fairly well together as a big group. Siebel and Simoncic being teammates over in the Virtual Endurance Championship as well for Burst Edge Esports. too. So they all get along with each other and they all kind of understand what was going on. For Panzar, his finish at Portugal last season was a 13th place, so definitely doing better than that. But this pack, this is the one that we're kind of keeping our eye on, because these are the ones all running the hard tyres. They're ticking them off early, and they will, and I'm not saying this is like maybe they will, no, they will close up on that top group through the latter parts of the race, especially the likes of Dennis Jordan. We're on board with Tom Satherley on this replay. Let's see what's happened as he's come out of curve 1 towards curve 2. Is he just going to go straight on here? A bit of understeer. It's not too bad. Gets beached on that curb, and that's how David Marocek got through.
Yep, straight through, and now Dennis Jordan's going to be fancying his chances, actually. Satherley's really lost a bit of time there, because he's lost the back of Marocek completely after getting overtaken. So I'm not sure what that's all about, but I'm really expecting Dennis Jordan in very soon at this point.
I was going to say,
because it seems like this is going on forever right now, and you'd expect his short stop to be on this sim, but he carries on again. This is 12 laps complete for him right now, and it's a bit surprising, really. Not entirely sure why he's carrying on for so long, but there you go. Clearly deciding that where he is right now is sufficient. Oh, trying to get down the inside at turn 2. That would be an unorthodox place to make a move. David Marocek, but more defending from Janus Braxok. He goes wide though into turn 3. Now round the outside at turn 4. This will be brave for David Marocek, but if he can hold it there, then he might be able to get the position. Still running side by side off of the corner. They're going to go through the kink. Absolutely level. Just about keeping it out of contact, but Marocek can't quite get through.
Marocek used way too much of the curb on the inside. I don't think he felt like he had another option. Janus Braxok was giving him enough room there just through that kink. But fantastic stuff between the two, racing very, very hard. The harder they race, though, the more time they're losing, because you've got a hard tyre runner keeping up with them in the background, as Tom Satherley did actually run wide there. And like you say, the Dennis Jordan is basically sat there waiting for that opportunity. Obviously, there is a plan that Dennis Jordan has. Evolution Motorsports, Dennis Jordan, Alex Siebel, they always have a plan as to how to approach a race. That's why they were so strategically smart elsewhere in sim racing, in the Race Indy Pro Championship as well. They really played strategy to perfection, ended up 2nd and 3rd in the championship as drivers, and won the teams championship as well. In the FSR World Championship last season, they were joint level with our championship winners in the team side of things. Unfortunately fell short courtesy of race victories and whatnot, but actually I think it went down to like 3rd places, didn't it, in the tie break for the teams championship. They're very, very good on strategy and consistency though.
Oh yeah, definitely one of the best, if not the best, in that particular department. Yeah, you'd be hard pushed to find a team better at it, as here we look at 2-time reigning champion Ewan Simincic, just on the back of Alex Siebel for the moment. Robin Pansor closing up ever so slightly as well, as the gap to Michi Hoyer extends to over 5.5 seconds now, continuing to run out in the lead, and Siebel just going a little bit defensive, just putting it to the middle of the road going down towards turn number 1. Simicic's not threatening really going down there, but Siebel just, putting it to the middle of the road, just, kind of showing to Simicic that it's not going to be easy for him to go through. As we have already noted in this race, we might not have said it, but we've already seen while on board with Burst Esports drivers, they're running quite high wings at this particular circuit, as Dennis Jordan, Luca D'Amelio, Liam Duval, they're all in here at the moment, and this is their short pit stop after 14 laps.
Yeah, there we go. So we kind of expect them in a little bit earlier, but maybe this is sort of the cut-off point for them coming into the pit lane. Dennis Jordan, the first one to depart it, obviously ahead of D'Amelio and Duval. But yeah, I may would have expected him in a little bit earlier, but remember that Dennis Jordan can go for soft. He's already run one of his hard tyres in qualifying, because he's already covered that one off. The rest of the hard tyres can come in at this point as well and take another set of hards, or go onto the softs and whatever and go for a bit of damage repair. But those hard tyre runners, they most of them still need to take that second stint of hards. We'll cover that off as to which ones do and don't, but it is interesting to note which ones are sort of on those hard tyres at the moment that are sort of playing a bit more of a longer game here.
In comes David Marocek here from 11th place, had enough of being behind Janus Braxog, has decided that the undercut, or whatever this is going to be, is worth it at this point. You'd expect him to try and be on the soft tyres for as long as possible, but he's clearly decided that that's not what he wants to go for on this occasion. Hard tyres on now for the Polish driver, and he's going to be out very shortly. There he goes. And he's going to be out ahead of Tom Savelli, of course, because he went in front. And now, where is Dennis Jordan? Just coming down the pit straight right now, and there he goes. Dennis Jordan is going to get through here. Is he? Yes, quite easily, actually, in the end. So we'll see now. Dennis Jordan's got 8.5 seconds of clean air in front of him. A lot of free space for him, a lot of free air for him to really, really push hard now and make up a lot of time while he's on his own and on these new soft tyres.
I'm expecting to see some at least green sectors, maybe some purple ones, as he goes fast in the first sector. Oh, that is fast as well. A 27.846 in sector 1. That plays Michi Hoyer's 28.2. Considering how much faster Michi Hoyer is than everyone else at the front end of the field on those soft tyres, of course, he's on older soft tyres. It's an abrasive surface here at Portugal. And so he's losing time at the moment to Dennis Jordan. To be honest, and this is like playing very much a long game. I'm not going to rule Dennis Jordan out from ending this race on a podium, potentially even a race victory. Because when they have to run on those hard tyres, and he's going to be on the soft, he's already ticked off his hards. Things, in my opinion, strategically, we were wondering when this wildcard stuff was going to be thrown into the mix. Here at Portugal, we are definitely seeing it, and the flag is being flown by Dennis Jordan.
It just remains to be seen. I guess this is a discussion that can be had after the race and preceding the next one. But how many people are going to go for it next time? Because it seems at the moment like it might pan out quite well for Dennis Jordan. It remains to be seen whether it's going to be a podium for him, if indeed he is going to get there. But I certainly think it's going to be a fantastic result. I think someone we've not really accounted for yet, just for the moment, and we've not talked about them much so far, as Danny van der Neek comes in on the hard tyres, is Peter Berliak. He's in 5th place at the moment. He's completely left everybody else on the hard tyres for complete dead there. Looking at that. Over 6 seconds ahead of Luke Maguire in the opening 18 laps of this race. He didn't qualify on the hard, so he's got good track position out of this, but he's getting hard tyres out of the way right now. Running in clean air. So if he can put softs on at the next one, he might put softs on the next one. He's going to have clean air in front of him. A lot of space to catch up to the likes of Simic and Panzar, and I think he's within or at least a shout of a very good result here today.
I think what he could do strategically is come in from this stint, run it as far as he can, as you normally would in the tank. Come in, do 2 stints on the softs and do his final stint on that second hard compound tyre to then get to the checker flag on a shorter stint and basically defend from that point. As Michi Hoyer comes in, what tyres is he going to go on? Is it going to be softs? It is indeed. He's doing the same strategy that we saw at Imola in the San Marino Grand Prix, where it was soft, hard from Michi Hoyer. For those of you just joining us here in the FSR World Championship, as we also see coming into the pit lane, Peter Berliak on those hard tyres, feeling that that's a distance he can go. The rule is on tyres is that you have to run 2 sets of the hard tyres. You can run 1 in qualifying and then 1 in the race, or you can run a soft tyre in qualifying and then 2 sets of hards in the race. Most of these drivers that we're looking at here, Michi Hoyer, Peter Berliak, they're all coming in. Who's that gone? Who was that? Was that?
I'm not entirely sure. Jim Parisius, I think it was. Jim Parisius possibly, as Michi Hoyer was exiting the pit lane. It was indeed Jim Parisius. He's got no front wing, and that is going to be a real disappointment for Jim Parisius. As now we get a replay of what happened. Michi Hoyer on the way out of the pit lane. He's going to appear on your right-hand side of your screen in a moment. What on earth is going to happen here? Trying to get down the inside.
Oh, we need to take a look on board with that.
We're going to need another look at it, really. But let's get a look now with Michi Hoyer to try and decide for really who was at fault, if anybody, for that incident.
So they were warned about this. In the race briefing prior to, they were warned because, can we actually take a look on with Michi Hoyer, because he was the one with the ever so slight overlap. As we come through here, they're both blind to each other. They can't see. Michi Hoyer now knows, he can probably tell, he can probably hear. Oh, Michi. Oh, with the overspeed, in my opinion, with the overspeed, he's kind of got to back out of that one.
I don't know if I agree. I don't know. I think Parisius maybe could have given a little bit more room in that one. But anyway,
I'm
not sure. We'll see how the stewards see that one a little bit later. Simic comes out alongside Alex Seat. Well, not quite alongside, thankfully, but just in behind and just in front of Ernest Lappins there, who I don't believe has pitted yet. Although,
No.
he hasn't pitted yet because he's still on hard tyres. Yeah, he's still out there at the moment. Still three drivers still to pit in this one, I believe. Robin Panzer, Luke Maguire, and Jonas Braxock, and Ernest Lappins.
Yeah, that was an interesting one. I mean, Mitchie playing a little bit fast and loose with his position in the race. Hopefully, he's not got any damage on the front left of that car, though, because that's the real worry. We'll see how things unfold, though, for him. Robin Panzer into the pit lane. Luke Maguire will potentially now take over the race lead, although he'll probably come into the pit lane and then relinquish that one back to the German of Michi Hoyer. Jonas Braxock in fourth position. Ernest Lappins will probably be coming in as well and sort of handing over. There is Panzer and Maguire into the pit lane, and Hoyer back out front.
Yeah, he is indeed, arguably where he belongs in this particular race. As, those final drivers are coming into the pit lane. Just going to note down as well how long these guys can actually go on fuel, because I'm pretty sure Braxock hasn't been in the pit lane yet. And so it's going to be 21 laps, might well be the limit at the end of this. Either way, Luke Maguire is going to head out of the pit lane now. We'll see where he comes out. Hopefully no repeat of the Michi Hoyer incident a moment ago, which could well be race defining in the end. We'll see how it pans out, of course, as he just gets out in front of Carlos Martin. Does Luke Maguire, as Martin actually goes a little bit wide, but either way, we're on board with Robin Panzer now, who looks like he's jumped Alex Siebel and Joni Simijic with a little bit of an earlier stop.
Indeed, yeah, he's using the fresher rubber to his advantage, even if it was a step harder, showing that it seems, harder tyres, faster than worn soft. Kind of expect that's about right around here, because the tyre delta is very, very strong around here. Like I said, it's a very abrasive surface. As the fresh hards, whilst they are quite a bit slower than the softs, it's no surprise to see them going a fair amount faster. For Robin Panzer, looking for his first podium since the 2019 season. Only scored points on 2 occasions in the World Championship of FSR in 2020. It really was a struggle of a season. Definitely looking to have found his form in this car.
Yeah, certainly. And it's great to see as Braxock leaves the pit lane now on hard tyres. So that's his first hard tyre stint of the weekend. So, guys who have... Wow, Dennis Jordan, look at him. 6th place already for Dennis Jordan. He started, 17th place, was it? Or 18th? Or somewhere in that kind of region. Might have even been lower than that. But a remarkable drive so far from Dennis Jordan. And let's not forget, for the final 52 laps of this race, he's going to be on the soft tyres for its entirety. Unlike everybody else in front of him. Peter Berliak has this hard tyre stint to clear, and then he will be fine. So this is a very important stint coming up for the 2015 World Champion, because he's got to keep Dennis Jordan behind him. He's on the hard tyres. This is not ideal, I will admit, but he has to keep the German behind him. If not, then there's no way he's going to finish in front.
I mean, the pace that Dennis Jordan has got at the moment, I am expecting, like I said earlier in the race, I think he may end up somewhere on the podium even with a victory. We'll have to wait and see. The soft tyres that Michi Hoyer has put on, though, he's cleared off. He's bolted 11 seconds clear. We'd naturally expect that gap to go out probably even somewhere to the region of around about 20 or so seconds. And that's kind of the margin that he needs, probably even a bit more than that, because those cars behind are ticking off some of their hards, and we know that Hoyer will have to come in around about just past the halfway point of the race. He's going to come in, he's going to go hards for the rest of the race, which I doubted in Imola, and I was wrong, and I'm more than happy to admit that. However, here with such an abrasive surface, I don't know, I'm less sure.
Yeah, it's a difficult one, really, in this. I mean, the delta between the two different tyres seems to be bigger around, or at least from what we were told, seems to be bigger between the softs and the hards on this particular occasion. So maybe things will be a little bit different this time around at Estoril, but he's certainly in control of this race right now. Let's not forget that about half of that 11-second gap right now that he's got was built while they were all on the same set of tyres. Panzer, Siebel, Simijic all have to take another hard tyre stint anyway, so I think Hoyer will be okay in this one. I think he's going to be fine, because they've only really got one stint where their tyres are going to be better than his for this one, and that's going to be right towards the end of this race, maybe in the middle, but probably right towards the end of this race. And by that point, it could be up towards 15 seconds, and that's going to be just too tall of an order in the final 15 laps of this race.
Well, we'll have to wait and see. Carlos Martin inside the top 10, though, for NetRex Grand Prix. That's pretty decent for NetRex running up there. Danny van der Neet as well behind. They have been jumped a little bit on the circuit. Davin Rodger and Luke McGuire are a fair way ahead. And Dennis Jordan as well, obviously coming into the early parts of the race, heading onto those soft compound tyres all the way up in that 6th position. Let's take a look at some lap times as well whilst we're at this point in the race. Dennis Jordan is no longer catching the cars ahead effectively. I think he's sort of running a little bit more cautiously on these tyres, trying to get them a little bit further. Shows how fast the soft tyres do drop off in this sense, but his time of catching the leaders is certainly not done yet. He did an 11.5 on the previous lap. That plays 11.5s and 11.6s ahead of him, and 11.0 for our race leader, Michi Hoyer. It was an 11.1 for Luke McGuire directly behind him. So McGuire is catching very quick as we ride on board with Janis Brakshock.
Yeah, we do indeed. Behind Danny van der Neet and Tom Savley here, both of which I believe he was in front of, maybe not in front of, but certainly in and around earlier on. So staying within the same kind of battle pack here between these three, battling over the final point at the moment, but it could all change a little bit later on, especially with D'Amelio coming up from behind. He's used all his hard tyre stints so far, so he's going to be very quick for the final 2/3 of this race. But Brakshock now very close to Danny van der Neet, maybe going down the inside at turn 6, but not quite just for the moment. He's going to try and get maybe the run off of the corner, but that's not quite going to work out for him either. Difficult to overtake here, not quite the most difficult of any place we go to, but moderately difficult, as was Imola actually, but people did eventually manage it, and you just have to get inventive really. Maybe dives down the inside at turn 3 could work out, but I just wonder if any of these guys will be a bit traumatised by what they saw at turn 1 and might be taking it a little bit easier right now.
I mean, I think that's very much past. That was a good half hour ago, so they're probably pretty comfortable within the car. This is Luke McGuire we're looking at on replay as he was trying to chase down Dennis Jordan. I think that was actually a mistake from David Marocek, certainly was. So that's how we got through and then started setting some decent times to catch Dennis Jordan. So that's where a bit of a change of position. Wondered where Luke McGuire's pace came from. He is looking very, very fast at the moment, really closing in the gap on Dennis Jordan. I still, if I'm a Dennis Jordan fan, and unfortunately I might be, no bias though, no bias, it's fine. I wouldn't be worried too much at the moment.
Well, looking at it right now, he's on the soft tyres as you can see. Petter in front is on the hards. For me, he should be catching fairly quickly, but he's caught half a second ever since he came out, and he came into the pit lane about 10 laps ago, more than 10 laps ago now. So I'm not quite so sure why this is happening at the moment, why he's not really gaining much time on Petter. Is it because Dennis Jordan's not going that quickly on these tyres? Is it because those soft tyres aren't that much better than the hards? If Luke McGuire was able to get through on Dennis Jordan and start catching up to Petter, then maybe he has a problem, but I'm really not sure if it's down to tyres or just driver right now.
I think like I say, I think it's just conserving. I think Dennis Jordan's just conserving the tyres. I think it seems like after about 5 or 6 laps, they tend to drop off a little bit. And also he has, he's really been pumping in the lap times earlier in the stint. I wouldn't be too worried if I was him. We'll track what the likes of Michi Hoyer do as we ride on board with Ibrahim Khan, closing down on Liam Duval. What a Grand Prix it was from Duval back at the San Marino Grand Prix. Really had the pace to be battling right at the front, ended that Grand Prix in 2nd place. This time it is not looking good as he is right down the order in just 18th position, showing how strong the World Championship is, and of course the opening lap catastrophe down through the first couple of corners. Just going to look at Michi Hoyer's lap times. He was running mid to low 11s throughout his entire stint. And at the moment, as reference to that, Dennis Jordan is actually running slower than that delta. He's running 11 highs. So obviously Michi Hoyer, we know, is really, really fast in the World Championship at the moment. But yeah, maybe Dennis Jordan's going a little bit slower than he needs to. He needs to kind of pick up the pace a little bit. But whilst he's holding Luke McGuire back, I think he's just trying to play the long game.
Yeah, quite possibly. Let's not forget that he's going to be on those soft tyres towards the whole of the end of the race now. But, it's down the inside. That's risky. And he's just about, as this is earning his lap-ins, by the way, trying to get through on Adam McGuire. didn't quite work out for him there. This is the kind of moves we're expecting to see from soft tyre runners, by the way. Desperation may start to kick in at some point, not suggesting right now, but in about 40 laps time, when we're really getting down to it, then desperation really could kick in for some of these guys. But yeah, Jordan is starting to reel in Berliak a little bit. The problem is the Croatian's going to put on soft tyres in about 5-10 laps time, so he really needs to get a move on here, Jordan, because they're going to be on the same tyres for the rest of the race very soon.
Yeah, but I mean, I get that point. Obviously, no, okay, no, I'll take it back. That's fine. That's a very good point, because obviously Berliak's run the hard tyres in the first stint. He's running his tyres on his second stint presently. So yeah, Dennis Jordan does actually really need to close that one down. It's really important that he does so. Wow, weird that you point out some facts, and I sometimes pay attention, but not all the time. Well, we'll have to see how it unfolds. Obviously, there's still plenty of the race to go as we're focused on this battle for the podium position at the moment. Robin Panzer loves these hard tyres after jumping Alex Siebel in the pit lane. Alex Siebel seems to be the cork in the bottle for Jene Simijic, because he's still sat on the back of it. Panzer's now starting to run away from it. He's cleared off 2 seconds up the road and is running roughly half a second faster a lap.
Yeah, that's quite remarkable from Robin Panzer, really. We were talking about to him earlier on in the day that he's not really been finding his feet in 2020, but starting to get a move on again this year, but really starting to extend the gap from Alex Siebel. I don't quite know, though, if it's because Alex Siebel's going slowly or not, but as you say, the lap times are looking great right now. The problem that Jene Simijic has got, stuck behind Alex Siebel right now, is that he's got quite high wings, as we know that the Burst eSport cars tend to around this circuit, and so that does often make it quite difficult to overtake. Alex Siebel really does need to cover off Simijic as quickly as possible at the next pit stop, because I think he's going to get undercut or overcut by the reigning champion if he's not careful. But while he's in front, Siebel doesn't have a lot of danger from actually being overtaken.
I think Simijic will be told to pit as early as he possibly can, effectively to jump Alex Siebel, because he can see. Simijic will know his delta realistically to Robin Panzer. And seeing him run away into the distance, that's basically what is setting off the alarm bells for the 2020 race winner at this circuit. And so he will really need to either do it on track or do it in the pit lane. Naturally, from the broadcast perspective, we want to see that move happen on circuit. But those two were close at last round 2 weeks ago. This is a close battle between Deval, Khan and Parisis, who's been escorted off the road already in this race with Michi Hoyer in tow. And now Parisis is trying to get involved in this battle.
Yeah, it's looking like a good one as well. But between these three, big slide off of the turn 5 there, though, for Jim Parisis, or turn 4 should I say, off for him, but yeah, keeping them behind them only. In Deval doing another good performance from him. Hard tyres, I believe, for the second time today, although I'm not 100% sure. Ibrahim Khan trying to get through for Zanto, trying to save the day for them really, but it's very difficult to see. Well, obviously it's impossible for Daniel Kish to get any points from this point, given his DNF so far, but yeah, it's looking like it's going to be another 0-point day for Zancho Simsport in the FSR World Championship.
Another? We didn't have 0. Sorry, they didn't have 0 points last time out. They scored points in Daniel Kish, but Ibrahim Khan didn't. Ibrahim Khan has run both. He's completed both sets on the hard tyres, as far as I can see on my timing. He actually pitted on the first lap, so he was involved in that chaos. He was on hard tyres at the start of the race, came into the pit lane, went onto hard. You'd initially think, wow, that's great. He's already ticked off both his hard tyres. It's not great, though, because he still has to make another. He'll have to make another stop, because the tank won't be able to. He can't just extend it that much. So ideally, it's not actually worked out for him, despite ticking off both hard tyres. It is still not great. On the back of Liam Deval, though, who he's on his second set of tyres, as you were alluding to, currently in 18th position. Once he gets onto the soft, we might see him go a little bit further up the order. But points from this position, I don't see it.
No, I don't see it either at this point. Very, very difficult. Props to them for staying in the race and still trying. But I think it's a lost cause for them at this point. On lap 32 right now, with 42 laps remaining. I believe the pit window for the second stop of this race is open, because you can do 21 lap stints on a tank of fuel, and if you do 2 of them, then you'll do 42 laps. for the remainder of this race. But Michi Hoyer not interested in that, and that's not his strategy. He's running this out as long as possible. We may see an early pit stop from Ewan Simicic, though, in the next couple of laps, if he's going to be a little bit brave and wants to get through on Alex Siebel as quickly as possible. Then we may well see him dive in.
I think Michi Hoyer, based on his previous stint, it was an 18-lap stint, and if he does the same thing again, he may go a lap longer because that could have been down to a little bit of fuel being used up on the formation lap, etc., and obviously start a race accelerating from the line. So he may go 19 laps in this. So we may expect Michi Hoyer into the pit in around about 5 laps' time. When does Ewan Simicic bite that bullet, though? Because he needs to come down pit lane to get out of the hot exhaust fumes of Alex Siebel pretty sharpish, because he'll be bored of staring at the back of him. A bit of a return to what happened last time out when Ewan Simicic was under pressure in a podium position from Alex Siebel over the last part of the race, switch them two around and change the circuit, and that's exactly what we've got going on here today. In the World Championship, as Danny van der Neek comes into the pit lane, normally, I think last season, we got to a point where everyone was kind of running on the same tyres. I think we got to the hard tyres, basically. Once you pass the first couple of stints, everyone was on the same stuff. You can see here, though, softs, hard, softs, hard, softs, hard. Everyone's running something completely different at this point, and that's what we wanted to see. That's what this rule's trying to throw up into the air as Danny van der Neek comes out of the pit lane, a lap down on Michi Hoyer.
Yeah, that just kind of shows how short this circuit is, actually. But it also shows how far ahead of everybody else Michi Hoyer is right now. But yeah, you're right, this new tyre rule and these new tyre rules, I think it's a good thing for FSR. Bringing in a real big strategy element, bringing in refueling as well. That also adds another bit of spice to the mixture. And I think it's really delivering for us right now. What it's also made us do, I was talking a little bit about it earlier, but now that we've got a tiny quiet moment in this race, we can talk about it a little bit, is that previously in FSR, when we used to have that kind of single tyre strategy that we were seeing, people on the same strategy often in the races, we saw people just hanging out for the final few laps of the race. You know, if you got a good start and were in a good place, you didn't really need to make any overtakes until 20 laps to go. And so the first third of the race was often very quiet, and quite quiet and just feeling each other out and that kind of thing. But now with these different tyres, people need to go fast at different portions of the race, and so they need to attack from much further out than they would have even dreamed of before.
Just passing or approaching rather, the halfway point in this race as well. We're on the 35th lap of proceedings, completed 34, halfway point being 37 laps on the road, as we look at David Marocek on the back of Luke McGuire. Was that Dennis Jordan peeling off into the pit lane? Ewan Simicic has bitten that bullet as well, and so he'll try and jump Alex Siebel in the pit lane, as Dennis Jordan as well comes in back to that fight for 5th place now with McGuire. Marocek's looking faster at the moment as he's closed that gap back in. And this is what I'm saying, these soft tyres, they seem to drop off and burn out fairly quickly. Dennis Jordan, that was a long pit stop, was it not? Or was that just me?
Fairly, well, I don't know. He was quite a long way behind Simicic before, so maybe that was all right, but it seemed a little bit long to me as well, if I'm honest. We'll wait and find out, though, in comparison to Luke McGuire when he comes in, because Jordan was just 1 second in front of Luke McGuire just before he came into the pit lane. So we'll be able to see when McGuire comes in whether whether Jordan has lost any time or not. But obviously we've got to wait a little bit of time to find that one out as Robin Panzar comes into the pit lane. But Alex Siebel carries on for another lap. I think that's a little bit of a mistake from Alex Siebel. Well, I suppose it may not be, but we'll wait and see. Simicic has gone onto the soft tyres, but Panzar on the hard tyres at the moment. He's going to come out in front of the reigning champion, I believe, but he's going to have a lot of defending to do in this third stint.
I was panicking because it was a long stop for Dennis Jordan, of course. It's not because they refuel in this as well now. I'm with it, don't worry. Refueling in this season of the World Championship. We just saw Luca Di Melio dropping down pit lane for Go Speed as he relinquishes 9th position to Adam McGuire, who's jumping up a couple of positions courtesy of other pit stops, Ernest Lappins. And it was David Marocek who's also in the pit lane. This is the thing with the World Championship at the moment. I have no idea what the right strategy is. I don't think there is a right strategy. We argued this in the Race Indy Pro Championship, is there was never really a right strategy that was just like, this is the strategy that you run. it changes track to track, it changes race to race. It depends on so many different factors as Michi Hoyer is into the pit lane doing 18-lap stints, short ones, and now onto the hards.
Well, if he does 18 laps, the advantage, it doesn't even add quite up, does it? In terms of making it fit evenly. So I have no idea why he's doing that, but he is. So we'll just have to deal with it as Hoyer comes in. So, he's out again. Burliak has come in, is what I meant to say, as Luke Maguire carries on for one more lap. Don't quite know what's happened there with Jone Simoncic. He's suddenly come out 7 seconds in front of Robin Panzart. Might have been a short fill from Simoncic, but I don't know why he would do that, especially because that's going to mean he has to spend longer on the hard tyres than most of his rivals.
Whoa.
But he must have thought that it was worth it because he has got track position over them.
And he's just set the fastest lap of the race by half a second. A 1:09.8. That is absolutely mad. Michi Hoyer's fastest lap of the race by half a second over the next car. So realistically, the fastest lap from Jone Simoncic in comparison to the next fastest car that isn't Michi Hoyer is a second faster. That is an incredible lap time, and it kind of backs the point of, did he fill up less? Because he has jumped, like you say, you're right, he's jumped Panzar a lot. Maybe Panzar's taken a bit of damage repair as well.
Well, I'm not entirely sure, but Simoncic has got to have taken a slightly shorter stop. Obviously, there will have been a bit of undercut in there as well because he's just set the fastest lap of the race, as you say. So I'm not entirely sure. Let's have a look at the pit stop here.
Did he just come into the pit lane again straight away?
No, this is a replay. So I think, anyway, as he stops in the box, let's see how short this pit stop was. Up on the jacks. And he is being held as down and away.
Ooh, it's
about
short.
6 seconds shorter, maybe even more than that, than what we normally see. So, short fill from Jone Simoncic. Expect him in again in about 14 laps.
Yeah, I think it's just because I just saw a bit of burst coming in just before we went to that replay. It's fine. But 6 seconds plays, 13 seconds from, I think it was 11, 12, 13 seconds from Panzer. That's an insanely short stop. Yeah. I can't work that out because the thing is, if he can, if you're going that much shorter, we know that a tank will do roughly 20 laps, and there's around 40 laps left in this race, slightly less than, of course, we've just passed the halfway point. That doesn't make sense to me.
Well, yeah, I guess we'll see. I don't really know at this point. It's so up in the air and it's so difficult to decide. That it's really hard to know what's the best thing to do at this given moment of the race. But one thing I do know is that Simoncic is now 7 seconds behind Hoyer, and he needs to get there before the end of this stint because let's not forget, he's going to put on his final set of hard tyres towards the end of this race. So is Hoyer. So in terms of tyres, they're going to be even. And actually, Hoyer's going to have better tyres because he's going to pit later, presumably. He might decide to pit at the same time, but either way, it doesn't really matter. They're going to be on very, very even tyres for the remainder of this race once these guys make their next pit stop. That is why Simoncic is pushing so hard right now, because he needs to get to the back of the German. Otherwise, it's going to be very, very difficult for him to catch when they're both on the same compound of tyre.
When we thought the strategy was going to be simple in the World Championship, and here it is just being thrown back in our face. Of course, that's not true. We didn't think it was going to be simple at all. For Simoncic, though, he needs to be firing, like I say, he needs to be firing some really, really good lap times. The question comes from maybe he's going to try something weird like a four-stop. I'm not 100% sure as Siebel comes into the pit lane, and so it'll be handed back the way of Michi Hoyer. I don't need to guess about this one. We know that Siebel is going to come out behind Simoncic, probably going to come out a fair way behind Panzer, potentially even Brackshock as well as he goes on to the soft compound tyre. Michi Hoyer said that he pitted before the halfway point. He can still make it, obviously, with one more pit stop. We know that. But I think it's because the soft tyres drop-off is more extreme than the hards. If they're running the hards that 18-lap distance, the hards are faster at the end of the race, which kind of we'd expect. But he's just pushing it that little bit further, and so it wants to go longer on the hard tyres. He knows he has to be on them twice, but a soft tyre running that far into the race is basically useless.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't really see this in Imola. The soft tyres didn't wear out this much, but it seems that they really are burning themselves out, and so Simoncic's idea of short filling and having a short stint on the softs right here seems very, very well placed, and I think that a lot of people have missed out on that, actually. Or we've just not seen it, but Simoncic has certainly played this race very, very well because he's got over 10 seconds to Robin Panzart and over 13 to Alex Siebel, who comes out behind Jonas Braxov. We're currently watching Ricardo Costa versus Dennis Jordan, though, and this is very important for Jordan. He needs to get through on Ricardo Costa. Even though Costa hadn't pitted yet, it's still very, very important because Jordan is losing time as we speak.
Certainly is. This is the risk of this strategy, is when you're in the pack, you're just going to lose time bit by bit here, there and everywhere, and it's just about sort of making the most of the scenario that you're currently in, and he is not doing that realistically. The move needs to come sharpish, and I don't know, it's a hard track to overtake out here, Ewan.
Yeah, we're seeing it right now, and there's nobody who knows that better than Dennis Jordan as it stands. Because that seems to be a lower downforce setup on the car of Costa. I'm not entirely sure if Costa has to stop right now, if he's coming towards the end of a stint or not. I feel like he has, but maybe not. Under 6 seconds is the gap for the lead, by the way. Hoyer versus Simoncic, and how many laps have we got left? Not very many laps left for Simoncic on this stint. Oh, sorry, no, I've done the maths wrong. And at least 10 laps left for Simoncic on these tyres, but as you mentioned earlier on, they do burn out here.
He's still closing roughly half a second a lap at the moment, set about that 9.8 that he set a few laps ago. For Jone Simicic's last lap time was a 10.8, so he's already lost a second a lap on time based on these tyres coming fresh out of the box. Michi Hoyer did an 11.4 on the previous lap as a 10.6 from Jone Simic, so closed down nearly a second over the previous lap of the race, trying to throw something here to try and attack his teammate in the championship, because Michi Hoyer, after winning that first race, now looking very, very strong here. This may just be concerning our double world champion. We saw how many times he's been runner-up in the World Championship prior to his inaugural win back in 2019. Definitely needs to do something about that to make sure that he's not finishing in second position. Once again, Ricardo Costa, as you were alluding to, was quite close to his pit stop sequence and now jumps into the lane.
Yeah, he does indeed, and that's going to delight Dennis Jordan, really. He's 9 seconds behind Petter Bernat right now, so he's lost about 3 seconds in that pit stop cycle, which is very, very disappointing to him. Meanwhile, further up, Robin Pantor's being caught by Alex Siebel and Petter Bernat, because we watch this battle between Rodger and Luke Maguire, because Maguire in the Edge eSports car has got a big overspeed now on these soft tyres. Round the outside, he's going to go at turn 6. It would be fairly spectacular if he's able to make this move done. Very, very close between the two of them. And I know there's a tyre difference between the two, but that was bravery at its finest from Luke Maguire to get through into 7th place.
That was absolutely brave from Luke Maguire. Love that kind of move. Just threw it around the outside, and he's going around the outside on a car with less grip than him. Sure, you kind of think, oh, that move must be easy, like you were saying, but it's very easy for Rodger to just pick up a little bit of understeer in the car, drift wide, and then smash into the side of Luke Maguire. So that was bravery at its highest, and a very nice move indeed. See if we can see any more like that throughout the race. He's on the back of Dennis Jordan now, and we know that the pace of Maguire over the previous stint was that of a faster time than Dennis Jordan, but he wasn't able to do anything about the German. And also, I think he's also got to run the hard tyres. He does indeed. He's still got to run the hard tyres once more, as Maguire.
Yes, I believe that is correct. So not like Jordan in that respect, as we go up towards Alex Siebel, who, if he wants to get... I think the podium battle is between these two, really. Hoyer and Simoncic have gone up the road. They're battling for the win between themselves, and if anybody else was to get a top 2, then something calamitous will have had to have happened to one of them, but we'll see later on, of course. 13.5 seconds is the gap between Simoncic and Pansar right now, as Alex Siebel is closing into turn 1. He needs to make this move stick, because Robin Pansar's going to put the soft tyres on for the final stint in this race. Siebel's going to have hards on, so it's going to be a big defending job for the German here if he wants to get this podium. But the first things first, he's got to overtake.
Yeah, the issues with Siebel right now is that every time he's behind, look at how little grip he's got. He may well be on the soft tyres, but there is not much grip in that Evolution Motorsports car. Slipping and sliding. Saw a lot of understeer coming through Curva 2 as we head into the interior Parabolica, that they both run fairly wide in, finding that late apex and then hooking it out of the corner. For Panzer, he's just got to hold on here. If he hangs on, I mean, if he gets a podium in this race, that'll be a stunning effort for the Swede. I think he's got a long race ahead of him to do so, but as things stand at the moment, when he comes in, he's already done both of his hard tyres. He's currently on his second stint of hard tyres, so he'll tick those both off, gets the softs for the end of the race. So at that point, things could be looking good. Let's see if Siebel can make a move at T1, though. He is closing a lot in the slipstream, but he's just not going to be close enough unless it is a full send.
Whoa.
Bit of a lock of the rear brakes as well from Panzer, but no way through for Siebel.
Not for the moment, but Siebel has got an overspeed into turn 1. Oh, no, he's gone!
He's gone
on the
wing.
exit of turn 2. He saves it out of the wall. My goodness, that was incredibly close to a big collision there for Alex Siebel, but a good save coming out of turn 2 to keep that car out of the wall. Goodness me, a massive moment there for Alex Siebel, and he continues on in 4th place, but he's lost 3 seconds.
Said that he was pushing hard and he had a very little grip in comparison and just pushed it a little bit too far. It's an extremely bumpy circuit here at Portugal and just picked up one of those bumps at the wrong point whilst trying to thread the eye of the needle at high speed with less grip. Hard work. His tyres will be cooked right now, which, considering he's on the soft, is exactly not what Alex Siebel needed. And for good measure, he's under pressure from the man we're on board with, the 2015 world champion Peter Berliak for Burstead Williams. It's like I say, big shout out to Peter Berliak. It's been a great drive from him so far, in 5th position and looking to potentially get himself even higher up the order than that. Seeing him, I think he even lifted out there going into T1, did Berliak, and look at this, closing in for the race lead.
Yep, it's Michi Hoyer versus Joni Simoncic, seemingly once again between these two. We didn't quite get the fight for the lead that we thought we were going to at the end of the Italian Grand Prix 2 weeks ago, but it looks like it's going to be an all-out brawl between them in the final 30 laps of the Portuguese Grand Prix. Michi Hoyer's heart must be beating out of his chest right now because he's got a 2-time champion bearing down on him. 1 second is the gap. It's coming down about half a second a lap, as you were mentioning a little bit earlier on, and we're getting to that stage in the race. This is a short circuit. We're getting towards traffic, and so if they're not getting out of the way quick enough, then it's going to be a problem. Joni Simoncic into the pit lane. 4-stop race for the 2-time champion. This is quite remarkable because with 28 laps to go, there's absolutely no way you're making it to the end. Here he is, another set of softs.
How long is his stop, though? Is he going to go? It's longer. Okay, so yeah, this is kind of where I was expecting it. It isn't quite the 13 seconds that we saw from Robin Panzer, but it is a longer stop. I mean, look, far be it from us to doubt the strategy of Joni Simoncic, having started down the order in the mid-pack and judging his way through beautifully on lap 1. I will never forget there was a time at the Virginia International Raceway in the Race Indy Pro Championship where you said that Joni Simoncic was on the wrong strategy or whatever and he's not going to get a podium or whatever. And where did he end up in the end of the race? Yeah, he ends up on the podium. And we were just like, how? For this 4-stop strategy, it's very much in the same category, is that it will only sort of line up at the end of the race. And I mean, look, it's Joni Simoncic. If he gets a podium, it's not really a shock. But is this a bit too weird strategy-wise?
Could possibly be. It's looking like it at the moment, but thanks for reminding me, by the way, of one
No
of
worries.
the worst things I've ever said on the broadcast ever, to doubt Joni Simoncic. So I'm not going to do it again, but I am going to say I can't see it for the moment, if I'm perfectly honest. Hoyer's got a 19-second lead now, and that doesn't look like closing. I think Simoncic, if anybody, is the only one who's going to close him, but for the moment I really can't see it because he's got to put hard tyres on towards the end of this race. It's going to be about an 8-lap stint on the hard, so it's not going to be too bad. And I think Simoncic is going to finish second, but I don't think that's really what he was hoping for. That's definitely not what he set out to do at the start of the day.
It does look like, because he is not very far behind Berliak, Siebel and even Panzer. So it does look like that Simoncic will end up probably in around about second place. Obviously, we know his pace at the moment is going to be absolutely ridiculous. I think he'll be running in the low 10s. He's on slightly more fuel than when he set that 9.8. But still, we'll probably close up onto the podium. It's just like, yeah, you're right. His goal was to go after Michi Hoyer. And that seems a little bit out of reach. We know that Hoyer's still got to go onto the hard tyres, but I'm just not so sure. We just saw Berliak come through shot. There is Joni Simoncic, and there is Robin Panzer at the front of that train he's desperate to catch.
Yeah, he is indeed. This is a real view of how big the gap is between those. Got 3.5 seconds between Berliak and Simoncic, but everybody's catching Robin Panzar at the moment. By the way, we're about 5 laps away now from the opening of the final pit stop window. If you want to make it to the end on fuel and tyres, I guess, 5 laps and the window will be opened. About lap 53 would be the very earliest. I saw Braxop do a 21 lap stint a little bit earlier on, but there was probably a little bit of fuel saving in traffic going on in that, so maybe 20 laps if you want to be safe to push throughout the entirety of the final stint of this race, and you can make it to the end from there. I'm expecting to see, Robin Panzar in quite early actually, but we mentioned it earlier on. Do you really want to be doing 20 laps on the soft tyres on the evidence of earlier? Maybe not.
No, I wouldn't. I think Hoyer's coming in around about lap 56 to do an 18-lap stint to the end of the race. And I reckon Panzar might be in around about the same kind of time. Like I say, you don't want to do like a 20-lap stint on the softs. They just wear out too quickly and you lose more time. Although that said, if you do pit in early, you'll be on the hard tyre or you'll be on worn softs later in the race. But you can at least do something about that. You can defend and such. Whereas if you come in now, or not now, but if you come in and do a 20-lap stint on those soft tyres, you'll at least be fast enough that you may build yourself enough of a gap to at least start a defence from the best possible place. So there's a few different elements to the strategy here that may play out. Jone Simoncic doesn't give a damn about any of that because he's just setting good lap times. He did an 11.1 on the previous lap that's just been completed and has already closed in a good couple of seconds to Berliak as well on that podium fight. We're focusing just outside of the top 10 on Adam Maguire with Danny Van Der Neet ahead. Looking like a pretty decent day though for Netrex Grand Prix after the calamitous early contact. They started from memory, it was 16th and 17th, I think. They were the lowest starting, or some of the lowest starting drivers that did qualifying on soft. They were just ahead of Jeffrey Fournier. They're doing really, really well in the race. They're sort of closed up on the pack and they're currently running 9th and 11th. Nice stuff.
Yeah, really nice from those guys. Great performance. And you mentioned it just there. Picked their way through the Turn 1 carnage immaculately, actually. A big shout out to those guys for doing so well so far in this race. But Van Der Neet has got some defending to do right now from Maguire as we go on board with Jone Simoncic. If any man can pull off a 4-stop strategy, then it's him. But at the moment, it's not looking too promising. Free car train just in front of him right now is what we're watching though, because Robin Panzar is going to have some defending to do from Alex Siebel and Petter Berliak. Let's not forget though that the Swedish driver is going to put on soft tyres towards the end of this race, and those soft tyres are going to be going on in the not too distant future.
Absolutely. We just saw on board there with Berliak, who's on the back of Alex Siebel. Berliak, whose consistency across the last season in the FSR World Championship netted him second place. Over the last few seasons in the World Championship, he's finished in the top 3, has been third and second, 2018, 19 and 20. So has a lot of consistency, has an awful lot of podiums. It's about consistency for Berliak, and you kind of don't really rule him out of podium contention. It was 6 podiums across the 10-round season last season for Edge eSports before he moved over to Williams, and it's the Williams side of the Burasud plus Williams, part of that partnership. He did retire from this race last season though, so things are going better. But remember that first round of this season where he only finished 10th? That was his lowest finish as far as I can remember in the World Championship since about 2016. Looking at the stats, it was the Japanese Grand Prix in 2016. He recorded a finish low. He did actually at Singapore, rather, a couple of years before. But his consistency is always up there in the points. And to see him down in 10th was a little bit of a shock.
I was starting to wonder really, because Berliak and Patel, his teammate, didn't do very well at all 2 weeks ago in Imola. I was beginning to wonder whether the both of them couldn't get to grips with the new strategic element that we have in FSR these days. But he seemingly put that to bed really. He's done miles better than everybody else who went on the same strategy as him by starting on the hard tyres. And so he has done a good job in that respect, and he will be putting soft tyres on towards the end of this race. It's rare to see him all the way down there in the 10th position. I think, though, he will be able to get a podium out of this one. If I was to put any money anywhere, then I would say that Petter Burliak is going to get a podium in this one, although I keep saying that for a lot of people now, and there's running out of spaces really in the front three, because Yoni Simoncic is about to arrive on the scene as well. 1.4 seconds behind just about, and this 3-car train is about to become a 4-car train.
Yeah, there is only 3 steps on the podium, not 5, not 10. But with the speed of the World Championship, you kind of expect that all 10 of them can get on the podium. And so who knows how that's going to unfold over the next 21 laps as we approach the end of the Portuguese Grand Prix, round 2 of 12 in the FSR World Championship. And we're approaching those final pit stops. We know that Michi Hoyer, when he comes in, he's going to be coming in and going on to hard tyres. Expect him to come in about 3 laps' time. Panzer has completed both of his tyre stops on the hard, so he'll be coming in for some soft tyres, potentially in a couple of laps' time. Siebel behind as well, running a slightly different strategy. He's got to go hard on the next stint. Burliak's already ticked off both of his hard, so for Siebel, things are not looking so good in that podium fight. Jone Simoncic does have to go onto the hard tyres. By the time he gets onto them, other people will be on slightly worn hard tyres. He can run fairly far on these softs, and so come in with maybe like 10 laps to go. Other people's hard tyres will already have started wearing out. He can go on hards on a slightly lower tank and get that to the checkered flag. So for Simoncic, things are still looking pretty decent. For Dennis Jordan, where things were looking so good earlier, less so than I would have expected. He's closed up to the podium fight, but maybe not as much as we would have expected.
I think that Siebel really needed to get through on Panzer a long time ago, really. Whenever he caught up to the back, I think he needed to go straight through if he wanted any chance of getting a podium here. But you're right, it's not looking too great for him right now. The pit stop window is now open to get to the end of the race, by the way. So Tom Savely and Danny Van Der Neet are all too happy to take up that opportunity and go into the pit lane one after the other. It's going to be soft tyres for the both of them towards the end of this race. Going to see if they can get any points out of this one, because Savely was in the lower part of the top 10. I believe Danny Van Der Neet was in 11th, so a bit of work to do for those guys, but they might be able to do it.
They're also going a lap down on the pit lane at the moment on Michi Hoyer, but once he comes through, it'll cycle them back out front. I think only a couple of cars are realistically a lap down and going to stay there. Jim Paresis being one of them, who's very close to Tom Savely on the exit of pit lane as we ride on board with Jone Simoncic, Petter Burliak ahead, Siebel and Panzer. Michi Hoyer 21.5 seconds clear at the front. And for my money, that looks like it may well stand. He got involved in an incident with Jim Paresis earlier in the race, but outside of that, he's been whistle clean, and it has been perfect stuff for the German once again, looking for his 3rd victory in the World Championship and his 2nd of the season. And he's got a 100% record on pole positions, looking to convert that as well to 100% of race victories. Petter Burliak defensive though into the interior parabolica. Jone Simoncic no way through at the moment.
Oh, a bit of a slide as well coming through the long left-hander there, but no way through. As you say, right now, Burliak's tyres are going to be wearing off a little bit, and Simoncic is going to be coming into his own, really, with these tyres. Going to try and run as long as possible on them, I think, and don't forget he's going to be pitting last of these 3, but he doesn't really want to be held up by these guys because he's trying to win this race if he can. But let's not forget, he has 1 more pit stop to make. So does Michi Hoyer. As all 3 of the cars in front come in, that's a perfect situation for Jone Simoncic as Robin Panzer, Alex Siebel and Petter Burliak all come into the pit lane. Simoncic has free track in front of him, and he can go as fast as he possibly can now for pretty much the rest of this race.
It'll be busy times in the pit lane for the pit crews. Here we're looking back at Ernest Lappens. He's in 18th position. I think we may be looking for an incident. There we are. That was a huge incident. Who was that with? Was that Dennis Jordan? It was.
No. Was it? Wow. Yeah,
oh, no.
Yes, it was. You're right. I think
Let's
you're right
take a
here.
look.
Let's have a look on board with the German for Evolution Motorsports right now. Just look to your left-hand side. Bang. Yeah, straight away. Not much that Dennis Jordan could have done about that, I would argue.
Before anyone draws the comparison to the Michi Hoyer thing and be like, oh, well, see, it's the same. That one is definitely on Ernest Lappens because Dennis Jordan was fully there and he was actually ahead when he hit the apex. whereas Michi Hoyer was a little bit behind at the time. We'll cover that one later, otherwise we're going to have an argument in the commentary booth and with the cameraman as well. So we'll drop that one for now. Michi Hoyer into the pit lane from the race lead. We know that Jurnej Simoncic still has another pit stop to make when it comes to the end of this race. It'll be a shorter one and onto lighter fuel with some fresher hard tyres. As there is Jurnej Simoncic to the race lead. And considering everything, he is not that far ahead of Michi Hoyer.
It's definitely not within a pit window, so that you definitely can't pit and get still out in the lead again. So Michi Hoyer looking in control at the moment with about 18 laps to go in the Portuguese Grand Prix. But Alex Seibel has recently he's jumped Robin Panzer and Peter Burdick in the pit lane. He was in front of Burdick but behind Panzer, and it was very important for him to get through there because he's put, as you said earlier on, he's putting hard tyres on and he's putting a car between himself and Panzer as well. Very important move as Adam Maguire gets sliced in between Panzer and Seibel. So now the onus is on the Burst eSport driver to get through as quickly as possible if he wants to get second place out of this.
Yeah, there was no way through for Panzer, maybe just not aggressive enough. And couldn't find his opportune moment to get by Adam Maguire, and this is great for Seibel, who's just clearing off. To be honest, it's also great for Jurnej Simoncic. There's the send by Panzer, just with superior grip. There's a bit of contact as well on Adam Maguire, just pushing his side pod out wide. Now he's got the grip. He's going to have to go around the outside. I don't really fancy this one working. Maybe going to swoop back down the inside. Maguire's fighting really, really hard with this group. What is Panzer going to do? Look at that, 1.3 seconds that Alex Seibel has been able to pull out on this group. Peter Burdick is right in the background and right a part of this, and this is just not going well for Panzer. What's Adam Maguire going to do? Is he coming into the pit lane? He is holding right. So for all that hard for literally nothing, here comes Burdick to the inside. Panzer's a sitting duck courtesy of all of that, and Burdick is through into fourth position. A terrible lap there from Robin Panzer.
Yeah, really, really disappointed. But not only have they lost 1.7 seconds to Alex Seibel, he's lost a position to Peter Burdick, and he may well now get overcut by Jurnej Simoncic because they will have lost a lot of time in that battle. All three of them, Maguire, Seibel, Burdick and Panzer, will have all lost a fair amount of time there. So Seibel outrunning on his own, Simoncic outrunning on his own in clean air, going very quickly right now. And he may well jump the both of them, getting at least a shot at Alex Seibel for the podium. He might jump Alex Seibel as well, given he's out there and going fairly quickly.
Rodger on the back of Luke Maguire, go from one Maguire to the other. This one's for 6th position as we focus from Burst Sticky Advertising's David Marocek and trying to find a way through there. 7 seconds behind Robin Panzer, Marocek's teammate, up the road. Things are looking good for that top 5. We'll see how they all unfold when it comes to the latter parts of the race, as Dennis Jordan is behind this, about 4 seconds back, but he will expect to be closing in. But after that incident, you wonder if there's damage on him as our DNF list rises. Ernest Lappin's, of course, out of the race. Ricardo Costa as well out of the race. So that is a handful of cars, 8 in total, out of the Portuguese Grand Prix. It is a track that bites. We kind of expect that from this circuit. The curbing is very, very slippery. The bumps are large and loose, and it's so easy to lose the rear end of the car. This will be a replay, I'm assuming, with Ricardo Costa. He's in the pit lane, and I think he's pulled the plug. You can see his engine seems to be off at the moment. Does he just not get going again after this? Nope, that is his day done.
Yeah, disappointment for Ricardo Costa, also Liam Duval as well, who's out of the race. I don't know if you mentioned that or not, but many drivers, especially compared to Imola, where we didn't get a retirement for a good first half of the race. It all descended into chaos right at the very first corner of this one, and so really not what you expect from a World Championship race. But anyway, that will be discussed after the race, I am fairly sure. Meanwhile, we're on board with Darren Mocek, who wants a top 6 position, top 6 finish out of this, and considering everything that's happened to him today, I think he'll regard this as a bit of a success right now, on the back of Maguire in the Edge eSports car. That's not the HM Engineering Maguire, that's the Edge eSports Luke Maguire, as they go down towards turn 1. Once again though, Burst eSports slow in a straight line.
Yeah, completed all of their pit stop requirements. So for those of you that are wondering at the moment, when it comes to everyone at the top end of the order, Jurnej Simoncic has not completed his pit lane sequence. He still needs to come in for one more stop and take the hard tyres. They'll probably come in with around about 10 laps to go. Behind that, Hoyer, Seibel, Burdick, They've all completed theirs, as has Panzer, as has both drivers in this battle. Dennis Jordan, Carlos Martin, basically everyone else has already completed all of their pit stops. It is only Jerne Simoncic who is yet to come down pit lane for the final time. And that's quite important because this battle then is absolute. It is purely on track. And the longer that Marocek stays behind Maguire, the closer that Dennis Jordan is closing in on them at rapid speed. And he needs to do something about this. Dennis Jordan's last lap time was about 3-4 tenths faster, and he will be closing in before the checkered flag on this current pace. Peter Berliak on board with the BS Williams. Here we go with the speed. He's going to try and get himself a podium. Going to go around the outside of Siebel, who defends on the inside of T1. He hits the curb on the inside, though, and sends Berliak wide. For my money, that was a little bit naughty, a little bit desperation from Siebel, and Berliak's not done yet.
Absolutely not. And Robin Panzer, look at him trying to get involved. Right now, it's going to have to be a huge drive from Alex Siebel to hold on to third place from here. That's what they're fighting over. Simoncic is going to jump these guys, no question about that at all for me. But Berliak now is going to try and get through on the outside line of Siebel into turn 6. Siebel breaks early, and Berliak is not going to be denied. Another fantastic pass around the outside at turn 6. And Berliak is into third place. I would argue he's going to stay there as well as Simoncic comes into the pits.
Yeah, he's coming for his final stop. He'll be taking the hards and set underway. Where's he coming out in relation to this battle? He'll be way ahead of it. He will be way ahead of it. So it looks like it could be a Burst eSports 1-2. That third place on the podium looking to go the way of Berliak after a stunning move. That was very much a Leon Duval eat your heart out moment that we saw back at Imola with some fantastic moves around the outside of Simoncic. Remembering that one coming down into Aqua Minerale between Duval and Simoncic. A fantastic move. Probably a move of the race there. That one for Berliak here looks to be move of the race, at least for now, because that was a stunning, brave effort around the outside of Siebel to get himself onto the podium. Panzer, if he has any aspirations of a podium as well, he needs to get that move done straight away. Things not looking so great when it comes to the Strategy Masterclass. We always call them the Strategy Masters. Evolution not looking so hot at the moment.
Well, yeah, you're right, but let's not forget that Dennis Jordan's strategy is now looking bad because of that incident he had not so long ago with Ernst Lappins when he was coming out of the pit lane there. He did lose a bit of time in that. I think he lost most of those 2 seconds he's behind Rodger in that particular incident there. So, I think it's a disappointing day once again for Dennis Jordan. 5th place last time out at Imola. It looks like it's going to be no better than 6th, certainly. In this one, I'd be impressed if he was able to get inside that top 6 at the end of it all. We'll wait and see. But Dennis Jordan not looking like a great start to his season. Although Alex Siebel, with 4th place right now, will be replicating his result of 2 weeks ago, which you could say is not a bad result for him.
It's consistency. Oh, that's too late on the brakes from Rodger. That was way, way, way too late. There was just a bit of a gap to the left-hand side of Luke Maguire and managed to slot it. Maguire was lucky he didn't close that door a little bit too much to try and take the line through, because Rodger would have been going straight into the back of him. In that instant with Ernest Lappins being told that was when Rodger got by Dennis Jordan. Of course, with Siebel, remember, we've also seen him going for a little bit of a spin and nearly clouting the barrier. I think he may have just brushed it in that instant. It was kind of hard to see from the angle that we had. I think he might have just brushed it. If not, he is unbelievably lucky. Did the old... if you know what it is, the 2-foot hack save, where it's not actually a hack, but if you get both foot on the pedals, the car sort of goes in a bit of a weird skew-if way, and it does work. I was told that once, and I was like, that is absolutely not true, and I tried it, and you can save some pretty impressive slides. This is with Siebel, as we'll see him battle it out.
No, this isn't it.
Oh,
it is.
This is his moment. So this is it. Cam's just trying to go back on the replay to see if he does actually make contact with the barrier. Well, we get our questions answered live on air here. What's going to happen? Gets the front end onto the grass, and that's where it starts to rotate itself back around. There is contact.
There is. Yeah, slight. I don't think that's going to be affecting him very much right now, and if it did, then it would have been fixed in the last pit stop, because he has been in since then. Not great for Alex. A moment he could have done without. Let's put it that way, as we have 10 laps to go right now. Just about. Michihoi coming around the final quarter, 10 laps to go. But Siebel, if he can hold on to 4th, I think he'll be still fairly pleased with how this particular one has gone. even though he did have that little half spin earlier on.
Potentially for a lot of drivers, it's a race of what could have been. Because obviously that first lap incident, which we'll go over ad nauseum, I'm sure the race direction as well will. It'll be a long night for them just to try and figure out what is actually happened and how many. The thing is, that was not one incident, it was like 3 or 4 all involved in the same sort of area. Some drivers were quite fortunate of how they dodged it, some were less so. One driver who was a little bit fortunate in all of that, Rodger as well, and Dennis Jordan behind, who qualified down the order in 19th position after qualifying on those hard tyres, was very lucky to escape from all of that and depart it with his car intact. He is closing in on this battle for 6th place, which is where our focus lies at the moment. Maybe a little bit too much curb on the inside there from Luke Maguire as they head through T3 and then back up the hill towards the curve of VIP. For Maguire, he's under a lot of pressure from Rodger, but Rodger's about to have the same sort of thing dished out to him once Dennis Jordan catches.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's going to be a big battle now between these three, you'd imagine. Doesn't seem like much is going to happen between Siebel and Panzer for the moment, but this battle does look pretty lively. Luke Maguire trying to hold on fairly valiantly at the moment. Didn't actually get any points, or didn't finish inside the top 10 for the Imola race last time out, so he will be eager to finish in the points on this occasion. Now having to defend very hard from Rodger, who gets pushed out wide, and now look at Dennis Jordan. He's right in on this. He might get 2 for the price of 1 down into turn number 1 now.
There was a big snap from Luke Maguire, and Dennis Jordan absolutely saw it. He's going to wait for Rodger to try and send it around the outside and potentially go for a cutback and get them before they get to T2. There's Rodger committing to the outside. There's the lock of the brakes, and here's Dennis Jordan going for that cutback. Wow, that was called quite well, as here comes Dennis Jordan through into 6th place. That was a little bit of a mistake there from Rodger, as he was just squeezed a little bit and maybe turned in. There's the dive. He slams Maguire. That was a little bit naughty. Dennis Jordan doesn't care one single bit, as he's already got up in the 6th.
Great driving, Dennis Jordan, by the way. At turn number 1, he saw that coming. He knew exactly what was going to happen. He knew that Rodger and Maguire were going to go wide. Just take a look at this, by the way. This is some of the best driving you'll see from Dennis Jordan right here. Just hangs back, lets these two go kamikaze into turn 1 and takes them both on the inside going towards turn 2. Brilliant stuff from Dennis Jordan. This is not quite so brilliant, I might add. Going down the inside from Rodger. Doesn't even hit the apex there at the inside of turn 3, I'm afraid, so he might cop a penalty for that because that was a little bit naughty.
I wonder if at T1, my question there would be if Maguire was squeezing too much, or if Rodger got a little bit too far over to the left-hand side and maybe brushed the curb a little bit and it sweeped in. Either way, Dennis Jordan doesn't really care in that scenario. He's got through. The move from Rodger was a little bit naughty. That was a send from slightly too far back. We'll focus on his teammate Robin Panzer, who's currently driving around in 5th place on the back of Alex Siebel. That gap between them was around about 3/10 a couple of laps ago. It's now out to 6, as I get the feeling those soft tyres are starting to struggle. If he wants to make that move before the checker flag, it's got to be pretty soon, because his soft tyres will be dropping off of a cliff fairly shortly.
Yeah, absolutely. He's I think it's already started to happen actually here, because the gap did creep out to 7/10 of a second after sector 1 on this lap, and just look at the gap now. Panzer's not quite crawling all over the back of Siebel like he was before, which is a little bit concerning for him really, because that's what he really needs to do. He needs to put the pressure on the German, but that's not really happening right now. No pressure on this German either. Is that 13 seconds between himself and his teammate Peter Berliak. He went a little bit wide actually at turn 4 there, but it's not going to matter to him at all. It's about 6.5 laps to go for him. It's just a question of bringing it home, and we're going to start asking the questions of titles, championships. It's a bit early for that, but how can anybody stop him when he's in this kind of form?
He seems to have very much found his form again. We'll bring it up so many times, time and time again, about that race victory at Malaysia being so very important and crucial to his 2020 season. Ended up 3rd in the championship, won the GT Challenge Championship, the inaugural one on rFactor 2, and various other things up and down the order in sim racing, and effectively certified himself as one of the top drivers in rFactor 2, a position which... and I am going to be completely honest here, a position that I don't think many people thought he would actually hang on to for very long. That race victory at Malaysia, there was the, getting the one victory, fair enough, backed it up with a podium. the GT Challenge victory he had at Silverstone, everyone was like, well, it was in the wet, he got a bit lucky. Backed it up straight away with a race victory at the Nürburgring. And it's those kind of performances, and he ended up winning that championship as well. It's those kind of performances that really do justify Hoyer's position, not only in the World Championship, but towards the top of rFactor 2 Racing. Robin Panzer is not close enough to Siebel unless he does a proper Marocek dive to the inside at T1, and there is no way for him to do so.
No, not for the moment, but I do agree about Michi Hoyer, what you're saying a few minutes ago. Arguably, the race after you get one of these big victories is kind of more career defining than the race where you actually won the big thing, really, because you can have lucky days from time, or not even luck can be on your side. So some days it just feels right, it goes right, you feel at one with the car, and there's just nothing that, because some days you're just on the day and that's it. But backing it up with a victory following on from that further on down the line is a whole other kind of prospect, and Michi Hoyer was certainly impressed in that department. After getting the first big victory in FSR, he's backed it up, and his first big victory this season of 2021, he looks like he's going to back it up with another victory here today. But it really does put him in good stead for this season, not just in FSR, but to get 2 victories before even 3 months of the year are out, it puts him in a great place to do well in anything he's going to drive for the rest of 2021.
And we'll see how that one unfolds. We're still on board with Panzer as we saw them dart their way across the bump through the Parabolica to Ayrton Senna, which I'm just going to say it anyway, because I know you said earlier in the race that earlier in the broadcast that you like that corner. I absolutely can't stand it because it's very, very tricky. Reece Gardner once said it was a travesty to the man's name, but it's not the ideal corner. It's the bumps are so very, very awkward around there. How many times in qualifying do we see someone losing it over those bumps in the most just unsatisfying fashion? No one seems to have fell foul to that throughout the race, which now I've jinxed that. I'm sure we'll see after the grid do so. Panzer he seems to be faster through that final corner, as we would expect on these softer tyres. He seems to have got them a bit more under wraps, which means that his best opportunity is down into turn 1. He needs to line it up through this sector and play his cards very, very well. Yeah,
he does indeed. It's not easy to overtake around here. We've seen that in the past, especially if you're a Burst eSport car. They're running very high wings at the moment, which is probably contributing to such a good run off of the turn. But then when you get onto the straight, you haven't really got anything. And we're seeing that right now. He's getting closer and closer again, is Robin Panzer, but he's not close enough to make a dive on Alex Siebel. And also, the hard tyre and the soft tyre are going to kind of be evening out in terms of pace. So it's just getting more and more difficult now for Robin Panzer.
Gaps stretched out across the grid. Carlos Martin inside the top 10. Tom Satherley behind him, also inside the points-paying positions. Points in the World Championship, just the top 10. In the Pro and Academy, it's top 15 that score points on the FSR calendar. But for us, it's just the top 10 here. You've got to perform and you've got to get yourself up there. I wonder if cameraman extraordinaire Cam Rodger will be returning to the World Championship grid at some point in the season, trying to get himself that World Championship point that's been fairly elusive to him. As we focus on Marocek, the closest battles on circuit between, weirdly enough, the Burst Sticky Advertising and Evolution Motorsports. Both of them very close to each other, and both are attacking in the same way. It is Evolution leading the Burst car, Marocek behind Jordan and Panzer behind Siebel as they try and fight their way through. The top 3, they are basically unchanged and all lapping around about the same times. It is 11.6s, 11.5s and 11.2s that they're all lapping in, so it's all very, very close and consistent between them. I don't see those gaps coming down unless there's a mistake with 3 laps to go.
Yeah, it's... that was very close for Darren Marocek. He wasn't even going for the dive then. He just outbroke himself and nearly went into the back of Dennis Jordan. But it's hard to see any mistakes going for those, at least in the top 3. Those top 3 positions do seem fairly consolidated at the moment, with just over 2 laps to go with Michi Hoyer in the final corner right now. But the battles further behind are certainly not sorted. The Evolution Motorsport guys holding off the Burst eSport guys, but I bet the Germans were hoping that it was the other 2 Burst eSport cars they were holding behind them.
Indeed, for championship's sake, I'm sure so. But at the moment, not working out for them. I wonder with Michi Hoyer, I wonder how he feels about the nickname of Nicky Hoyer. I brought this up before that there's the RCCO Electric World Championship thing that was on motorsport.tv. last week, I think it was, and he took part in it, ended up winning one of his races and stuff. Commentator kept calling him Mickey Hoyer, so I think we should make that a thing in the World Championship. I'm sure he'll love that. He was very emotional in his interview back in Imola. We definitely heard that one in his voice. It was certainly more emotional, realistically sounding, than his first victory back in Malaysia. And I wonder if now, I'm going to assume not. I don't think he will be as emotional of this. I think this is settling into the form of Mickey Hoyer, or Mickey Hoyer.
I don't think he's going to be doing the only Simracing was like, yeah, I won. Okay.
No, not quite that far.
He'd be a little bit more pleased than that, I reckon. But no, I think you're right. I think he's certainly starting to settle into this kind of running form that he's found himself in right now as he just ticks over onto the final lap of this race. But yeah, I think you're right. He's going to be delighted with how this has gone. He's going to be looking ahead towards the rest of the championship season and seeing what he can do with it. But certainly a little bit more relaxed and maybe less emotional than in the last couple of wins that he has managed to gather in the FSR World Championship. Let's not forget, it's going to be his third World Championship victory and his fourth World Championship pole here tonight, as his teammate Robin Panzar still in a big battle.
Yeah, final lap of the race. Best opportunity for the Swede to get by. He's gone to the outside of Siebel, committed on the brakes, and wasn't able to get through. He absolutely threw that one in. Rodger as well has not got past on Dennis Jordan. These are the final opportunities for them to do so. 73 laps complete in the Portuguese Grand Prix. We are on the final one, coming up to the final sector. This man, Mickey Hoyer, the last time there was a back-to-back victory in the FSR World Championship, it was 12 months ago. It was in this track as well with the French Grand Prix. It was Jurne Simoncic. This time though, roles reversed. Mickey Hoyer is the one on top for the third time in his World Championship career. Hoyer converts to the race victory. Jurne Simoncic behind will come across in second, and a bit of strategy masterclass from Peter Berliak, the 2015 World Champion, will depart the final corner, and for BS Plus Williams, they'll be grabbing themselves their first podium in their FSR career. Alex Siebel behind, still battling with Robin Panzar, will just hold him off to the checkered flag. I believe it's a good launch out the final corner from Panzar. Not going to be good enough. Dennis Jordan and Rodger should come across the line behind in a very similar fashion indeed. Burst eSports 1-2 again though. That is a big scene.
Yeah, massive statement from those guys again. Hoyer and Simoncic on the podium for the second time this season. It's Jurne Simoncic's 49th FSR World Championship podium, by the way. That's an astonishing record in itself, but Mickey Hoyer is on the start of a bit of an astonishing record himself, really, taking 2 race wins to open out the season. I don't know when the last time that happened, really. Maybe never. Probably happened once.
It definitely happened before.
It's probably happened before, but not very often is what I'm trying to say. And it's going to have to be a very, very high caliber of driver to be able to manage it as well. Needs to just run side by side around the circuit for the moment on their in lap at the moment. Just a bit of a photo opportunity for all the guys at Burst Esports who are going to be delighted with how this World Championship season has started.
Yeah, the last year we only had one driver take back-to-back victories, and it was Jurne Simoncic at this circuit and the circuit afterwards. Mickey Hoyer going for back-to-back for his first time in his career, of course. It's only his third victory. Now doing some donuts. That is what we like to see. The last time, by the way, that anyone opened the season with back-to-back victories was actually only 2019. It wasn't that long ago. It was Jurne Simoncic, of course it would be. He won 5 on the bounce. Mickey Hoyer's got to do quite well to do that this season. But to be fair, on this form, considering how he was at Imola, considering how he's been here today, not going to rule it out.
Yeah, he's going to have a massive confidence boost from that. He's going to be really, really confident heading into the next race and really on top of his game. We can see that right now. He's going to be difficult to stop, is Mickey Hoyer, and I'm looking forward to finding out if anybody can indeed stop him. We'll get them in for a bit of an interview now. But good race. Enjoyed that one, actually.
Let's have a chat then with Mickey Hoyer, who is our race winner for the third time in his career, taking 100% of the race victories and 100% of the pole positions as well in 2021. You were pretty emotional back at the San Marino Grand Prix. How was that one for you?
This one was like Wow, like I know we prepared good, and I have to thank the entire team for working hard throughout the entire week. Like we were struggling quite a bit, and in the end found a good setup for the race, and that pretty much enabled us to do the job that we did. And well, for me, it's just like Imola felt good because it was full of pressure. But this one feels amazing because this time it's only me, no one else that was in the way, no one else that had really to deal with. Today it's what was just pure pace and just pure performance, and uh um I'm so happy.
Got to tackle one thing from that race that we all kind of saw on the broadcast. Kind of want to get your opinion on it. There was an incident around about the halfway point between yourself and Jim Paresis. If you remember it, what was your kind of view on that one?
I was coming out of pit road and I got warned that there's a car next to me by pit road. So when I exited the pit from the engineer, and I looked into my mirror and I saw, okay, you got the nose front, so at least you gain yourself the right to the race. And I did not, or to the corner, and I did not even push hard or try to go deep into the corner. I was about to let him go anyway, but somehow it just, yeah, there was no space anymore. Somehow, honestly, I need to look at it from the replay from a bird view or something, but. Yeah, I'm gonna go and contact Jim after the race or after this broadcast, and we'll have a chat about the situation. Because literally right now, I was a bit surprised that we made up contact. I did not even try to defend hard into that turn from a personal point of view because there was simply no point. And yeah, in the end, I need to see what happened there. I'm of course sorry that this happened.
Final question then. Considering we opened Malaysia and you took a victory there last season and you backed that up with a podium. This time, though, 2 victories, 2 pole positions. Asked you last round about, is this the new Michi Hoyer? Seems like we're getting our answer for that.
Well, yeah, as I said today, it was just me personally. No, Malaysia was a little bit of luck, and in Imola, I also profited from Yane's strategy call. But today was just me, and I think that is the one of the best races I ever did around in Formula Sim racing, and I'm mega proud on it. And I just try to keep the momentum up and keep moving forwards.
Perfect drive once again from Michi Hoyer, taking both victories and 50 points to his name. Looking in his mirror throughout that race, although it was quite a distance back. Let's take a look to double world champion Jerne Simoncic. A 4-stop strategy, Jerne. Where did the idea for that come from?
Well, 4-stop was quicker than 3-stop, so I took 4-stop. Well, I don't know. I had to try something from my position on the grid, so there was no way I would have overtaken Alex because he was on lower wings and on the straights I had nothing. But to be honest, the biggest victory for me was that I could even show up because 5 minutes before qualifying started, I had to experience this feature of the sim having update, and it got stuck, and then the game did not launch, and I just lost all the concentration and just could not put a quali lap in. So really happy about the result, especially for burst simplicity, having 1-2.
You started from 8th position, got your way up into 2nd, which oddly enough is actually the same starting position and finishing position that Michi Hoyer had at the San Marino Grand Prix, which was round 2 last season. Considering the start of your season, you finished both times on the podium over the opening couple of races. Are you getting a little bit concerned that Michi Hoyer's running away from you? He's in the booth still listening to you, so be careful.
To be honest, at the moment, I'm not really being worried about the Drivers' Championship. I'm just really happy that I put myself again from a bad position into a position where I can still race for the championship, like without huge drawbacks from first 2 races. But the most important thing, of course, is that our team is now really well into the first place in the standings.
Well, thank you. Yeah, first burst eSports 1-2 of the season. First one since the Japanese Grand Prix last season. We'll move it on to Petr Beliak, who gets onto the podium once again in his FSR career. Has done that quite a few times, including 6 times last season. Didn't have the best run of things back at the San Marino Grand Prix, ending that one in 10th. Started 14th in this one. We were a little bit concerned about your starting position. Through the chaos and carnage, though, you come out onto the podium.
Yeah, that was luck more than anything else. My race pace was okay, but qualifying, on top of not having really good pace, I just did a bad lap. So even with a good lap, I'd be like P9 or P8 or something. I think we went slightly too low on the wings. Not a lot, but maybe we would get a better qualifying place with higher wings. But anyway, yeah, I was just mostly alone until the pretty much last stint or penultimate stint, and I don't know, I was just trying to drive as quickly as possible and minimizing mistakes, and it kind of came towards me. I think Alex had a couple issues, yeah, and then a couple of moves which were pretty good ones, and I don't know, Michi and Yene was just a bit too fast.
Kind of looking at that first lap of the race, it was probably one of the most calamitous first laps that we've seen in the World Championship, certainly for a long time. There was a lot of crashing going on. With you starting from 14th position, you were very much in the danger zone. How did you kind of dodge everything down there?
Everyone kind of went away from the apex of turn 1 when I arrived. So that was sort of went flying into the runoff. That was pretty much it.
Well, fantastic stuff. Thank you, Petr Beliak. 3rd place and first podium for BS Plus Williams as well. Back to you and final thoughts of the race.
We had lots of drama, I think it's fair to say, especially down there at turn 1 on lap 1. But once again, a very, very enjoyable race. These new tyre rules have really thrown things into the... Here's the championship standings, by the way. Michi Hoyer's now leading by 17 points to Ewan Simicic, but it doesn't matter too much after 2 rounds. There's still plenty of time to go. Yeah, really enjoyed the race once again. It's going to be interesting to see next time how the strategies kind of develop, really. I know it didn't pay off for Dennis Jordan today. But I think that strategy definitely could work at a circuit if somebody gets it right and gets a good race. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the next few weeks to finding out how that's going to develop. But yeah, once again, I've very much enjoyed this race here in the Portuguese Grand Prix once again.
Yeah, glad I didn't bring up the struggles of championship leaders when it comes to the races earlier in the day, because in Academy, Mantas Rikas, who won at Imola, ended up 16th position, 0 points to him, and for Viktor Ivanov in Pro, he won at Imola and then retired from the race. Michi Hoyer, though, says no thank you to that curse and takes victory at the Portuguese Grand Prix as well as at San Marino. We're back again on the 4th of April when we head to the German Grand Prix, and can he make it 3 from 3, aiming for the recent run that Ewan Simicic had in 2019, taking 5 victories on the bounce. Well, you'll have to wait until then. The FSR World Championship will return, and we shall see how everyone gets on at an iconic circuit. Until then, though, thank you very much for watching. Bye-bye.